We're live. Hello and welcome to another Fantasy Haven live stream. Today we're going to be going through my Blackfyre Rebellions video and just sort of chatting about it, talking about theories, history, lore, all kind of stuff. And this will also double as a Q&A stream. So if you want to ask me about the making of the video or anything about the Blackfyres, go right ahead. As always, like and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you want to support the channel and support me, because this is my job, I do this as a career, you can send in some super chats. You can ask me some fun questions, ask me to talk about theories, or just get me to say dumb stuff out loud. So now that that's out of the way, let's begin. Oh, and if you want to know why I'm late, why the Late Lord Haven is late in this stream, it's because I was doing a cheeky little Patreon stream available for Landed Knights and above, where we were discussing a future video that I have planned. Should I reveal it? I don't know. Well, screw it, why not? Yeah, so my next video, as many of you have probably guessed, is going to be about young Griff. It's going to be about exploring the potential Sith, the Siths of Westeros, the potential 6th Blackfyre Rebellion. So young Griff, John Connington, Varys and Illyrio, all of that stuff. Not presenting it as like objective, just talking about the theory, you know. This could be the case. And so, because in my original Blackfyre video, I say my original, this one, the one we're talking about, in my original script and the audio, the last 2 minutes of the video were talking about the 6th Blackfyre Rebellion, young Griff, is he a Targaryen, is he a Blackfyre? But one, I was running out of time, and two, I thought, 2 minutes isn't enough. Like, there's so much more you can explore about these characters. I don't want to cram it into the end of this video. So I thought I'd make the Blackfyre Rebellions just about the main Blackfyre Rebellions and then reserve young Griff and all of that theorizing for a later video. So my next video will be young Griff. It'll probably be in 2 weeks' time, because I'm sort of taking this week off to catch up with live streams. I'm doing a bunch of Patreon live streams. I'm doing a bunch of YouTube live streams because I haven't done a YouTube live stream in ages. And I'm also going to tidy my house, or my flat rather. So, yeah, it gets messy here in Guantanamo Bay, what can I say? My prison cell is, it's a dump. So yeah, I'm taking a bit of a break, because it took a lot out of me making this video, but I think it was worth it, because now we have a 20-minute animated video, a 20-minute solo video. That's like the longest solo animated thing I've done, and the feedback has been incredible. You're all incredible, thanks for all of that stuff. You're incredible. Have I mentioned how incredible you are? What else was I going to say? Oh, and then the video after young Griff, so this will be 3 weeks' time, maybe even 4 weeks' time, I'm going to be doing my first ever Westeros What If. Or rather, a Song of Ice... Westeros What If is too restrictive. It's a cool alliteration, but a Song of Ice and Fire What If. So this will be... People are telling me, what else are you going to do beyond animated history videos? And, beyond just A Song of Ice and Fire, you can look at Witcher and Warhammer and all that stuff. But beyond just lore, I want to talk more about theories, hence the Young Griff episode next week. But I also thought, let's do some alternate history, right? Or as I'll call it, alternate fantasy. Let's look at what could have happened if certain things had changed, if there were different points of divergence throughout the timeline. And I don't know if it will be popular. You might like it, you might not. So I want to do a test run. And my test run will be the video in 2 weeks. Oh, not 2 weeks. 2 videos away, which will be what if the Blackfyre Rebellions succeeded? That will be my alternate history take. It will be, I'll be going through every single Blackfyre Rebellion and going, what did it need to succeed? And if it did succeed, what would have happened? So what course of events would have unfolded? What characters would have lived? What characters would have died? Who would the kings be? What would their small councils be? What would the geopolitical makeup of Westeros be? Who would the Lord Paramount be? All of that stuff. And so, for my Patreon live stream, just before this live stream, we were going through, in particular, the first Blackfyre Rebellion, and sort of discussing all of that fun stuff, like Daemon taking the throne. How could Daemon the First have taken the throne, and what would have happened following that? What would have happened to Dawn? What would have happened to all of these Lord Paramounts? What would have happened to the Targaryen bloodline, etc.? And you'll find all of that out in a few weeks' time. And if you're a patron watching this and you missed that live stream, it was very short notice. I apologise. I'll do my future patron live streams will be. I'll let you know more in advance, and I'll do it at different times of the day so that different time zones can enjoy it. And they're all available. They're all unlisted. So if you're a patron and you're landed 9 and above, you can watch those after they've been streamed, so you haven't missed anything. But I feel like we've done the nice little opening segment to get everyone in. We got 75 viewers or so. Oh, I know. I'll quickly retweet my repost. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. No, I'm going to quote do it. Jump into the live stream. Let people know about the live stream on the Twitters. Okay, before we begin, I do have a few super chats. I'll read these out now, and then I'll go on to the video, and we'll do some fun commentary and stuff, and then I'll pause. I think I'll pause at the end of each rebellion to check for super chat and stuff. But for now, let's quickly say thank you to Coleshot, who says, if I could choose, I would support the Blackfyres. That's a hot take. I've done 2 different polls about the Targaryens versus the Blackfyres in the last couple of weeks, because I wanted to see if anyone's opinions had changed since the video, and the Targaryens smashed it. Team Targ are by far more successful. Let me know in the chat why you support the Blackfyres then, Coleshot. You lunatic. Why would you support the Blackfyres? Todd Howard, thank you for the super chat from Todd Howard. What if Aegon the Conqueror failed? That's a cool one. I saw another what if proposal. I think it was on my Patreon Discord where they said, what if Aegon the Conqueror didn't have dragons? Which is basically the same as saying, what if Aegon the Conqueror failed? If he didn't have dragons, he wouldn't have succeeded, you know. So what if Aegon the Conqueror failed? That'd be a great what if. Where would that lead? It would just be the 7 kingdoms staying as 7 kingdoms and continuing the cycle of fighting each other, and yeah. How would you even explore that as a what if? Would you have certain events that take place outside of Westeros, or as a result of natural occurrences like disasters, plagues, so on, happening at certain points, and then working out what a divided Westeros would have done to meet those challenges? Perhaps. Honestly, doing some what if YouTube live streams could be fun as well. If I'm just like, I might do that for the future. I could even do that this week. Just be like, sending your what if suggestions and we'll go through them together. Thank you for the super chat from Batflash, who says, for the what if announcement. Thank you for your £1.99. That's very kind of you. And yes, of course, I gotta announce it. I can't do delayed gratification. If I have an idea, I always end up spoiling it. I couldn't even wait till the end of the stream. Thank you again for Todd Howard. To Todd Howard for the super chat. Todd Howard says, idea, what if Aemond became King of the Greens? So let's say, what if Aegon was killed during the battle, and his children were all dead, and then Aemond becomes king? That's a good one too. Who knows? People who don't know about Hot D spoilers, maybe that is going to happen. We don't know. Okay, yeah. So I'll be going through the video now. If you have any questions or like what if suggestions, send it in via the form of the super chat. But I'll check those out in a bit, because let's get the video started. Oh yeah. I won't have this too high. Let me just make sure you can hear the desktop audio. Let me know if you can hear the desktop audio properly. Did the illegitimate son of Aegon IV found a rebellious dynasty that nearly destroyed House Targaryen? This is why you come to this channel, for the peak reaction content. Haven reacts to himself. Why did the rivalry between a bitter warrior and a sorceress spymaster breed numerous rebellions? And who are the surviving members of this infamous family? This is the animated history of House Blackfyre. The origins of the rebellions can be traced back to King Aegon IV. But several Targaryens since have fought against Blackfyre pretenders trying to steal their throne. But you don't have to worry about strangers stealing your data with Atlas VPN. Tell me that's not the smoothest sponsorship transition you've ever seen in a video. Tell me that wasn't smooth as fuck. So we'll jump over the sponsorship bit, because there's not much to say, obviously. But yeah, your boy made it. I finally got sponsored. some of you might be thinking, who cares? But like, if you're early Haven fans, you know that back in the day, my old videos used to have fake sponsors. Used to have meme stuff like instead of G Fuel, it was D Fuel, like Damon Fuel, Audible instead of Audible. What else did we have? We had some good ones. Oh yeah, instead of like Raid Shadow Legends, it was VisiT Leprosy Legends, like the game where you play as Viserys and you die you slowly die. You know, that kind of stuff. I used to take the piss back in the day with those kind of ads, and now we have a legitimate ad. We've got big, the Lord Haven himself has got big enough to get sponsorships. That's pretty cool. I feel like a professional YouTuber would be like, yeah, whatever. But I'm like, this is fun. I want to share this stuff with you. I'm comfortable sharing this aspect of YouTube with you because, you know, some people act kind of awkward about it or ashamed, but it's like, it's, you know, it's a sponsorship. Yeah, it is what it is. So thanks to Atlas VPN for, you know, sponsoring me for this video. And I wanted it to be smooth, right? I didn't want it to be like a jarring at time for Atlas VPN. I was like, let me have fun with it. It was very much inspired by Oversimplified. The sort of integrate the sponsorship into the video. Do like a cheesy little, but you don't have to worry about your data being that kind of thing. I mean, a lot of my channel is inspired by Oversimplified, to be fair. This is the Oversimplified of fantasy, but not as good. Wait, maybe the animation's not as good, the videos aren't as long, but you better believe I post more consistently than Oversimplified. Alright.
The son of King Viserys II was a handsome...
I need to stop hitting my desk. Apologies.
young prince who grew into the grotesque King Aegon the Unworthy.
Let me know what the audio's like for the video as well. Obviously I have the subtitles here, but like, if the video audio is too quiet and you want it to be higher, just let me know.
Man ruled by his vices and infamous for his corruption, lust, and greed. Throughout his life, he boasted numerous mistresses and even more bastards.
Right, so numerous mistresses. I didn't go through all of them because I might save that for another video. Either a video about the entire reign of Aegon IV, or more likely a video about his mistresses in particular. So the mistresses we look at in this video, of course, are Serenai of Lys, Barbara Bracken, Melissa Blackwood, and this is the woman on the right is meant to represent Dana the Defiant, his cousin, but she isn't technically one of his 9 mistresses. I'll quickly go through them. Let me try and remember them off the top of my head. So, for those who don't know, Aegon's 9 mistresses were because he had lots of mistresses, right? But his famous 9 were the ones he claimed to have loved. These are the ones he claimed to have genuinely loved, not just, used and discarded. Because, of course, he has hundreds of bastards, hundreds of women he slept with. Something like 9, he claims to have slept with 900 women or something. But, yeah, this is different. These are the women he loved, and their children are the great bastards. These are the bastards of the women he loved. So, the first woman he slept with was Felaena Stokeworth. Correct me if I'm wrong. Felaena Stokeworth, and this was when he was only 14 or something, which may actually do a lot in explaining the kind of man Aegon grew up to be, if he was basically sort of groomed as a teenage boy before he was ready. He was 14 years old and he was seduced, groomed, whatever you want to call it, by an older lady, Felaena Stokeworth, and she became a favourite of his. His second mistress was Merry Meg, who was the young wife of a blacksmith, and he thought she was beautiful, so he basically bought her from the blacksmith, and he had a few kids with her until he basically grew bored of her, and then went, okay, it was fun. It was fun having a peasant mistress, but you're boring now, so he gave her back to the blacksmith, and a few years later he beat her to death. Now his third mistress was Lady Casella Vaith, who was a Dornish woman. So during the King Daeron I's conquest of Dorne, a lot of his family members came along. So his cousin Aegon, of course, took part, as did his cousin Aemon the Dragon Knight. Excuse me. Aemon the Dragon Knight. And Aegon escorted some hostages back to King's Landing, I believe. And one of those Dornish hostages was Lady Casella Vaith, who's a House Vaith, which is, I think, from the Marcherlands. That's a stony Dornish house, potentially. Correct me if I'm wrong. But she sort of developed Stockholm syndrome and basically believed that he loved her when he didn't. Yeah, and you know, he because she's one of the 9 mistresses, that implies he loved her in some way, or claimed he did, but eventually he sent her back to Dawn, discarded her, like, yeah, I'm done with you. But if she had this sort of strong imposter syndrome, if she had this, like, this, what she thought was love for him, then it didn't go away. It stayed with her. She carried it back to Dawn, and she till her dying days, where she sort of turned into a crazy old lady, she claimed to have been Aegon IV's one true love, and is quite tragic. He didn't have any children with her, I don't think. His fourth mistress was I believe his fourth one was the Black Pearl of Braavos. Let me have some water for a second. Hold on. Gotta stay hydrated. So the Black Pearl of Braavos, what was her name? Something Otherys. Belagir. Belgera. I'm not entirely sure how you'd pronounce that, but let's call her the Black Pearl of Braavos, a very famous courtesan from Braavos. And actually, in the current books, in the current Song of Ice and Fire books, there is a new Black Pearl who is also an Otherys who's descended from her, and she's colloquially known as the Brown Pearl of Braavos because her skin is several shades lighter than her ancestor. But the Black Pearl of Braavos was a Bravosi courtesan, and then Aegon sort of fell in love with her, and he had some children with her as well, the Otherys children, and we don't know anything about them outside of the fact that they're the sons and daughters of Aegon and the Black Pearl. We don't know anything about them. We don't even know if they technically count as great bastards. They probably do, but we don't know for sure. And then his next great bastard, his next mistress was this lady, the vivacious, buxom lady Barbara Bracken. And he was besotted with her. He fell in love with her, and with her he had let the kids pop out. There we go. With her he had Aegor Rivers, who was a bit of a hot-headed young lad. But then, of course, he moved on to Melissa Blackwood, and the Blackwoods and the Brackens have this ancient blood feud, this ancient rivalry, for reasons we don't really know. There's that classic line in one of the books, right, where it's like both houses have lots of blood from the other house. So, like, the Brackens have Blackwood blood. The Blackwoods have Bracken blood because they're constantly intermarrying and trying to quell the beef, but then it sparks up again. And it's all kind of pointless and meaningless. But, you've got to have those feuding families. And Westeros has more than its fair share of feuding families, but I'd say the most famous blood feud has to be the Brackens and the Blackwoods. And so nothing really embodies this more than a Bracken mistress being cast aside and replaced with a Blackwood mistress. And so the family of the mothers have that enmity, so do the children. So Melissa Blackwood had 3 children. So Melissa Blackwood was sort of tall, slender, willowy, pretty. She had 3 kids, 2 daughters. Let's double check. 3 daughters, I believe one's called Maya and the other begins with a G. Maya and Gwenys, that's it. We don't know much about Maya and Gwenys. 2 potentially interesting women in the history of Westeros, so that means they probably die in childbirth. That's what we'll learn in Fire and Blood Part 2, let's be honest. But yeah, the important one is this lad, Brynden Rivers, who presumably was an albino, because he had, white hair, pale skin, reddish eyes, so that implies he had albinism of some sort. And he also had a I didn't bring this up in a video, but because it's in the art, I gave him a birthmark. He has a birthmark vaguely in the shape of a raven, not super. It's sort of, you can interpret it as being raven-like. So I kind of had like a head here, kind of wings, little tail, and because of the blood red wine-stained birthmark, he's called Blood Raven, which is a great name. And of course, Aegor Rivers becomes Bittersteel because he's a a steely warrior and very, very bitter. And so, yeah. But then he ends up... Aegon ended up replacing Melissa Blackwood with another Bracken. Because, of course, Barbara Bracken's father was like, hold on. I used to be Hand of the King. I used to be Hand of the King. You know, the Brackens were influential at court. My daughter was the mistress. He was pushing for Aegon to actually... Lord Bracken was pushing for Aegon to abandon his abandon his wife Nerys and marry Barbara Bracken instead. And that he could have achieved that, but no. We could have had King Aegor Targaryen. King Bittersteel. Oh, that's another what if. Speaking of what ifs, King Bittersteel. The Bitter King. Anyway. So yes. But then Aegon... and so Lord Bracken was like, okay, I have another daughter who's even younger. I think she was only 16, which is not nice. And was like, I'm going to bring her to court, and I'm going to flaunt her in front of Aegon, and hopefully Aegon will be interested in her. And it worked. Aegon abandoned Melissa Blackwood and moved over to another Bracken. His, 7th mistress? Yes. No. Yes, his 7th mistress. Who was, Bethany Bracken, that's it. But, you know, by this point, Aegon was sort of obese and gross and nasty. And she didn't want to sleep with him, so instead she slept with one of his Kingsguard, Sir Terence Toyne. But they were discovered, and Terence Toyne was tortured to death, and then Bethany Bracken was executed, and Lord Bracken was also executed. So there's definitely some obvious Henry VIII parallels, right? None of the kings are direct one-to-one with kings of England. I get, you know, there's always multiple inspirations there, but you could definitely argue that Aegon IV is mostly inspired by Henry VIII. I'd also say there's some Henry I in there, in the sense of Henry I had like 20 bastard children. He had 20 bastard children, but only like a son and a daughter, legitimately. And then when his legitimate son died, that led to a succession crisis where it was just his daughter, but then his daughter's male cousin was like, hey, I should take over instead. And then you had the anarchy, which is what House of the Dragon is partly inspired by, but that's a video for another time. Comparing Hot D with the English anarchy, that's a video for another time. But yeah, there's bits of there are elements of Henry I, elements of Henry VIII, maybe some other kings, maybe some kings not called Henry. But yeah, anyway, after executing Bethany Bracken, his 8th mistress was who was it? Jane Lothston. That's it. So if you remember, I said his first mistress was Felice Stokeworth. Well, Jane Lothston was the beautiful daughter of Felice Stokeworth, and she came as a teenager to court, and then he would sleep with her, and he'd also sleep with... Allegedly, he'd have mother and daughter in bed at the same time, which is pretty gross. And to make it even grosser, there are rumours that Felina Stoke... no, hold on. Jane Lothston. There are rumours that Jane Lothston may have been the bastard daughter of Aegon himself, and so that he's basically sleeping with his own daughter. And so when you see art of Jane Lothston, sometimes people give her a slight purple glint to the eye to sort of hearken to that theory. But then his final 9th wife was this woman, Serenai of Lys, a sort of foreign sorceress, and also known as Sweet Serenai. And she gave birth to a daughter, Shiera Seastar. She's, again, a very interesting mistress, but because she's so interesting, she had to die in childbirth, in classic George R. R. Martin fashion. And she gave birth to Shiera Seastar, who is known for being like the most beautiful woman who ever lived, past and present and future. Like, she is basically it. She was the most beautiful woman ever. And she had main character syndrome because she had heterochromia. One of her eyes was described as being a deep blue, probably from the Targaryen purple, and the other eye was described as being sea green. And so I decided to, while this isn't confirmed in the canon, I gave her mother those like sea green eyes because I thought, why not? Yeah. So those were the 9 mistresses of Aegon. Maybe in a future video I could explore them a bit more. And yeah, to clarify, Daemon Blackfyre himself, while he is a bastard, his mother was not one of Aegon's mistresses. Dana the Defiant was not one of Aegon's mistresses because he didn't love her. It was just a fling, basically. And Dana the Defiant was his cousin. Quick family tree for those who don't know. Aegon had Aegon the Fourth's father was Viserys II. Viserys' older brother was Aegon III. Aegon III's eldest daughter was Dana the Defiant, right? So his uncle's daughter. Anyway, which for House Targaryen isn't super incesty. Like, sleeping with his cousin is more normal than most Targ stuff. But let's move on. This was one hell of a tangent, my goodness. Let's continue.
Aegon hated his fragile sister wife, Queen Daenerys, with whom he sired 2 surviving children, Prince Daeron and Princess Daenerys.
The crew. Okay, so a couple of things to notice. One, this Queen Daenerys is very much inspired by the artwork of Amok, A-M-O-K, also known as Roman. It's an artist from like who in the 90s he drew like a bunch of A Song of Ice and Fire characters, and you know his art's very famous. And his interpretation of Queen Daenerys is what I modelled my character after. With whom he sired 2 surviving children, Prince Daeron and Princess Daenerys. There we go, Daeron and Daenerys, his 2 sons. Daeron, who he hated, named after Daeron the Conqueror, presumably, and then Daenerys, the first Daenerys we learn about in Targaryen history. Of his many lovers, perhaps the most consequential proved to be his cousin, Dana the Defiant, daughter of King Aegon III. She birthed a strapping young lad named Daemon Waters, whom she... There he is, Daemon Waters. And it's Waters because he's a bastard of King's Landing. And he grew up in King's Landing. Although Bittersteel and Bloodraven also grew up in King's Landing, so you could argue they should be Waters and not Rivers, but I think there's some dispute there. She named after her grandfather, the infamous Rogue Prince. Hey, the Rogue Prince. I actually redesigned this. So I had a Daemon Targaryen... I had a Daemon Targaryen character art, whatever, in my previous videos, but it looked rubbish because it was back when my art wasn't great. So I was like, screw it, I'll make a new one from scratch. And in honour of Matt Smith, I gave him a little butt chin there. I gave him a little chin crease. He was raised in the Red Keep and knighted. Did I call Daenerys a son? I do that a lot. I get son and daughter mixed up. I get lots of my words mixed up. I got the classic ADHD fast talky thing. Aged 12 by his father, King Aegon, who granted him the ancestral Targaryen sword, Blackfyre, famously passed down from king to king. Here we have Aegon the Conqueror. So yeah, this was my Blackfyre sword design. I gave it the rubies, the red rubies. It's a shame, like, I'm not a sword expert, so I can't point at any swords in like the show House of Dragon and say, oh, that sword's good or bad. Like, it just looks, I don't really know that much. But I do have to confess, it's a bit of a shame that they didn't have the ruby in Blackfyre. That's like the big red ruby in the hilt. We couldn't have had that in the show. Oh, come on. But yeah, I did get a small bit of criticism for this sword from one of my patrons, Boombler, who said that the steel is a bit too light, which is true. Valyrian steel is a lot darker, so I might redesign this if I need it in future videos. As of that day, Daemon Waters took the name Daemon Blackfyre. Aegon the Unworthy claims to have loved 9 of his many mistresses, but only 3 produced the most famous of the great bastards. Barbara Bracken gave birth to Aegor Rivers. I had to obviously deeply respect the source material, right? So when I design my characters, I go on the wiki and I double check how they're physically described. I look at various pieces of art online and I compare and I contrast them. So it's not just, oh, I need to draw a character, let me just quickly draw one. It takes me a long time to do the art because I want it to be as accurate as possible, even down to the colour of the eyes, even down to the kind of purple. Like, some Targaryens have deep purple eyes, some have violet, some have pale. You know, I put a lot of effort into that. And so naturally, when drawing Barbara Bracken, when I read that she's a famously busty, I had no choice but to, I had no choice. Melissa Blackwood gave birth to Brynden Rivers, and Serenai of Lys died giving birth to Shiera Seastar. Actually, yeah, wait, hold on. Yeah, when I was going through the mistresses, this would have been an easier frame to pause at, because it has all their names. Anyway. Gore Rivers to Shiera Seastar gave birth to Brynden Rivers,
and Serenai of Lys died, giving birth to Shiera Seastar.
Rest in peace.
The Brackens and Blackwoods are historical rivals, and this enmity was reflected in the Bastard Brothers.
Oh yes, I don't show off the sigils enough.
Brackens and Blackwoods are
So yeah, the Bracken sigil, Blackwood sigil.
historical rivals, and this enmity.
There we go. So these are I didn't really go into detail here, but these are the personal coat of arms of Bittersteel and Bloodraven. Bittersteel takes the Bracken horse, but gives him Targaryen wings, dragon wings, and fire. The winged stallion, the winged red stallion on yellow. And meanwhile, Bloodraven takes a one-headed dragon, but it's a white dragon on black, sort of presumably to represent his albinism. And yeah, white with red eyes. Both of these are metal as fuck. If there's one thing, there are many things that George is great at in terms of visuals and aesthetics, but there are some metal coat of arms out there, especially the Ironborn ones.
He was reflected in the Bastard Brothers. To make matters worse, they were both in love with their beautiful half-sister Shiera, who rejected Aegor and embraced Brynden, occasionally.
Yeah, occasionally at least. So this wasn't so much a case of she said, no, I don't want you, Bittersteel, I want Bloodraven, and we're going to spend the rest of our life together. She wasn't a fan of that stuff. She was like, no. You know, I like you, I like to sleep with you, but I'm going to open myself up. It's an open relationship. So here we have like a handsome, charming bard coming over, and she's interested, like, and he's not so happy about that. Which is a good thing about doing animation, is that not everything has to be explained in the script. I do my best to get everything in there, but some things can be implied with just the art and, you know, what's going on screen. So occasionally, at least, then you have a looking over. What is it she said? There's a famous line. Shiera said something like, I think, yeah, Bloodraven proposed to her numerous times, but she didn't want to be tied down. And one time she said something like, why would I restrain myself? You know, why would I restrict myself to one man? And besides, jealousy suits you. So there she's saying, it suits your personality to be the jealous kind. I find you hot when you're jealous. I wouldn't want to marry you. I don't think I made him pale enough. Maybe I should give him a paler skin tone. But yeah, Serenai of Lys, the daughter of Serenai of Lys, Shiera Seastar, very mysterious character, supposedly a sorceress in herself, supposedly like almost an alchemist, like a mistress of potions, in the sense of there are rumours that she gave one of Aegon V's sisters a love potion so that they could spike Aegon with it, and Aegon would fall in love with his sister, and all that stuff. The weird magical stuff surrounding her and Bloodraven. And she's also described as I said, the most beautiful woman in the Seven Kingdoms, but also in the world, and also ever. And we don't really know what happened to her. Maybe she died. There are some theories that she's still alive, and that she's an old lady, maybe in the body of a young woman, a bit like Melisandre in the show. Some suspect that she is tells her cryptic shit and stuff. I don't know. That's for another video, I think. But the Great Bastards are certainly interesting.
Unlike the scholarly Crown Prince Daeron, Daemon was a charming warrior, popular with the men of court, and even more popular with the ladies.
Yeah, what I like about Daemon is that he's a super charismatic boy. You know, he's again, there's so much we don't know about this time period, but the impression you get is that Daemon is very honourable, probably a nice guy. I kind of like the characterization of him as a bit of a himbo, where he's just kind of like a handsome, charming, maybe a bit dim. That's not necessarily based on anything. He could have been a smart guy, but I like himbo Daemon. And he's very popular. The ladies loved him, and the men at court were like, hey, I want to be his friend. And that's deliberate. He's contrasted with Daeron, who is the narrow-shouldered, pot-bellied, stooped, scholarly man. You know, the Chad versus the Virgin. There's that famous Chad Virgin meme that's spread around everywhere.
Became close friends with his half-brother Aegor, as well as the Red Keep's master at arms, Sir Quentyn Bull, known as Fireball.
Oh, speaking of that meme, I literally posted that meme. I scheduled a few posts. Yeah, if you check out my community posts, you should see the Chad versus Virgin, Daeron versus Daemon meme. It's kind of funny. Anyway, yes, Quentyn Bull. House Ball is a house in the Reach, and Quentin Ball was the Master at Arms, and he was known as Fireball for his fiery temperament, and also for he had a shock of red hair as well.
Quentin was determined to...
Yeah, if you want to know what this monstrosity is, this is meant to represent the back of his head. Some people were disturbed by this, and I do apologise.
Joined the Kingsguard, and even sent his wife off to the Silent Sisters to be eligible for the position.
Tell me that's not based. That's so funny that he was like, I'm so desperate to be in the Kingsguard, I'm going to cart my wife off to a religious institution so that technically I am now unmarried and I can join the Kingsguard. Like, yeah. Daemon Blackfyre seems like a nice person. The people around him all just come across as like just dicks. Just like annoying, just like gruff, angry dicks.
King Aegon IV became a morbidly obese, bedridden man. With his dying breath, he legitimised all of his bastards. Why? One last act of spite towards his hated son, Daeron? An act of kindness towards his bastards?
There's a good shot of all the great bastards.
Or perhaps just an act of impulse, the last of thousands that had consumed his debaucherous life. This one would consume the realm.
Yeah, so I might even do a poll. What do we think? Why did he legitimise his bastards? Did he do it to spite his son, Daeron? Did he do it because he genuinely loved his bastards? He was like, you deserve this, you should be legitimised, you should be ennobled, etc. Or did he do it because he was just like, he was driven by impulse and vice and all that stuff, and he was just like, oh, yes, I'm dying, fine, legitimise them all, yeah, sure. But he just can't control himself. So why did Aegon IV legitimise his bastards? So this will be going up in the chat soon. Yeah, I'll put why. The options are he hated Daeron, he loved... Again, it could be all three, but like, what's the main reason? Okay, the poll is now in the chat. Why did Aegon IV legitimise his bastards? Was it because he hated Daeron? Was it because he loved his bastards? Or was it just an act of impulse? One last middle finger to the world. Yeah, it could have just been like a fuck you to everything. While the poll is... Yeah, ooh, people jumping into the poll. While we're going through the poll, I will check some super chats. And then we'll see what the result is. I like that people seem to like polls. I'll do more polls as we go through the video. I might even do another Targ versus Blackfyre one just to really start a war in the comments. Okay, thank you for the super chat from Aegor Bittersteel. Oh no. When I said you were grumpy, when I said you were gruff, I didn't mean it. Okay, if you're the real Bittersteel, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Thank you. Oh, this is your first ever super chat to me. Thank you. Bittersteel says, make an official statement that you support House Blackfyre, true royal family. Okay, well, I have no choice. You know, I'm a shill. I'm a shill for Atlas VPN. I'm a shill for fucking Bittersteel. You know, I don't have a choice. If I'm being paid, I gotta do it. I'm your dancing monkey. Here's my official statement. I support the House of Blackfyre, the true royal family. There we go. Bittersteel also said, thank you, Lord Haven, for your Blackfyre masterpiece. Thank you very much. That's very kind. I've got a lot of good feedback from that video. I put lots of effort in. Do you have Blackfyre sympathies after the video? So, yeah, my general take with Targ versus Blackfyre is, of course, a ruler should not be determined by who they happen to be descended from. So, like, it doesn't... Whether Daeron is a bastard or Daemon is a bastard is irrelevant. In terms of the wider implications of the rebellion, I think the Targs are in the right. In the sense of the people who supported Daemon Blackfyre seem to be the corrupt lickspittles who lost power under Daemon and wanted to basically use Daemon as a power to get back, to like flatter him and get land back, get wealth back, get control back. Like they did with Aegon IV. They wanted to use him like Aegon IV. And not to mention a bunch of sort of anti-Dornish types supported Daemon, because if they didn't like that Daeron was married to a Dornish woman, that the Crown Prince looked Dornish, that the Dornish had been integrated into the Seven Kingdoms, but had more power and autonomy than the other Lord Paramountcies, it remained a principality. there is still a prince in charge of Dorne. Whereas in the Reach, there's no king, there's no prince, there's just a Lord Paramount. So you had these sort of, the sort of anti-Dornish xenophobes, I guess. People who are scared, angry of Dornish people rallying behind Daemon as well. So it just seems to be, his faction just sort of seems to be driven by, like, anger, fear, spite, revenge. I don't think it would have made for a successful or stable realm compared to Daeron, who's a genuinely good person. He's a good man, he's well-read. He's a bit of a nerd, we do have to admit. And of course, he's got some great people in his family too. Baelor Breakspear, what a legend. But yeah, thank you for your super chat. Also, thank you for the super chat from Todd Howard, who asks, what if the Red Kings destroyed House Stark? That's a cool what if. That's a cool what if suggestion. For those who weren't here earlier on in the stream, let me just move that. For those who weren't here earlier on in the stream, I said that in the future I want to do some alternate history or alternate fantasy. I want to do some what if stream. So what if this specific point of divergence happened which affects the story and the world and the characters in some way. So in a couple episodes time, I'm going to have what if each Blackfyre rebellion succeeded, and then I'll sort of grow the ideas off of that, right? So what if the Red Kings destroyed House Stark, that being the Boltons? That's an interesting one. I'm not sure where you could go with that. I think the further back you go with what if, the harder it is to come up with anything, because there's not enough, there aren't as many plots or characters that have been established, so there's not enough to see change, So the Red Kings taking over the Starks, you would have House Bolton in control of the North. I guess the implication is, let's say Aegon the Conqueror comes along and then the Boltons bend the knee and the Boltons are the Lord Paramounts. How would that house have dealt with each major Westerosi event? Assuming that every Bolton is a ruthless, flaying psychopath, I guess, is the point. How would they have dealt with Aegon the First? Who would they have joined in the Dance of the Dragons or the Blackfyre rebellions? How would the events of the main book series be changed if the Boltons were ruling the North, even? I know, there are lots of things you can look at. It depends on how far you want to go with the butterfly effect. Like, do you want to say the Boltons defeat the Starks and become kings in the North, and then by the time of the main books, it's just like it could be anything, right? Or do you want it to be a bit more streamlined and for there to be more parallels with the main book? So, for example, what if the Boltons are in charge of the North, and in the main book series, Winterfell is owned by literally Roose Bolton and Domeric Bolton and maybe Ramsay Snow, and then Robert Baratheon is friends with Roose Bolton instead of being friends with Ned, and then the same plot happens, but Roose goes to King's Landing, and Littlefinger tries to stir up tension between the North and the Boltons and the Lannisters, and maybe Catelyn Tully marries Roose Bolton. I don't know. There are lots of different directions you can go in with that kind of thing. And Todd had sent in another super chat, thank you, which said, what if the Andal invasions failed? Again, that's a lot more of a vague one, because that's really far behind. So, like, there's a lot that affects so much, it's almost like, where do you go from that? But I guess the idea would be if the Andals didn't invade and integrate and all that stuff, it would just be the First Men in power still, and each kingdom would be ruled by First Men. But again, I don't know how that would affect the future of Westeros, honestly. Because at that point, you're just coming up with a completely brand new timeline. And before we go back to the video, another super chat. Thank you for the super chat from Coleshot, who says, if you're in that world, Westeros, Red Dragon or Black, which side do you support? You don't know the outcome of the war. You also don't know all the support from both parties. Okay, so if I were in Westeros and the rebellion broke out, and I don't know who was going to win, and I don't know who supported who, I just had to, like, make a choice. I don't know. You sort of need to know who supports who, because you need to know what the strategic choice is. Assuming you mean if I were a lord, right? If I were a lord, I'd have to look at who are my enemies supporting, who are my allies supporting, who are my vassals supporting, who are my liege lords supporting, what do I stand to gain from it? If you just mean in terms of I'm like a random peasant, who would I support? probably Daemon Blackfyre, right? Because what you would hear is that he's a handsome, charming warrior, compared to Daeron, where you might hear that, you know, there's some nerd on the Iron Throne who listens to women and Dornishmen, and they're all taking over King's Landing. If I was a peasant, I feel like I'd probably be Team Blackfyre, because the argument for Daemon is a lot simpler and more streamlined, you know. Okay, one more super chat before I go back to the video, because I quickly got one in from Todd Howard once again. Thank you for all the super chats, Todd. Todd says, okay, here's something more concrete. What if... Okay, this next bit is a House of the Dragon spoiler, so I will say, if you don't want to be spoiled for House of the Dragon, mute the video and unmute it once the YouTube video, my Blackfyre video, continues playing, because that's me going back to the commentary. So get ready to mute if you don't want to know hot tea spoilers. 3, it won't take too long. 3, 2, 1, okay. So the super chat was, what if Hugh Hammer's betrayal succeeded? So I guess what you're saying is, what if he successfully, he wasn't killed by the Caltrops, and he successfully, you know, defeated Adam Velaryon, and with him and Ulf the White being dragon riders, inevitably perhaps they were able to defeat the Blacks and Rhaenyra's faction. That would be interesting. Let's say Aegon II takes the throne, Hugh Hammer's still in the picture. Hugh Hammer wants to be king, right? Like Ulf the White was saying, make me like the Lord of Highgarden or some shit, like Bronn. And then Hugh Hammer was saying, I should be a king. I don't know. I think it's possible that if Hugh Hammer succeeded and Aegon took the throne, they might just have him assassinated, like he was before the war ended. Although they'd probably be smarter about it and like do it after the war, not during the war when they need him. They'd probably be like, oh yeah, we'll make you king of whatever he wanted to be king of. Come around. We're definitely not going to kill you. They'd probably assassinate him. In terms of like needing an ally with a dragon, no, I don't think they could risk keeping him alive, because he just seemed like a bit of a crazy person who was like, I want to be the king. It's like, well, king of what? Like, Aegon's not going to give up his throne, and what plot of land do you want to be king of? Because if you're the king of any plot of land and you have a dragon, you're a threat. So I think Hugh Hammer was destined to be assassinated, basically. It just happened earlier than it could have done. That's what I think, at least. Let me know if you disagree. Okay, let's jump back to the video. But I'll have some water quickly. Okay.
But it takes more than a single act to foment a rebellion. King Daeron II's actions proved controversial. When he took the Iron Throne, he rooted out corruption at court, angering the lickspittles and opportunists who had thrived under his father.
Yeah, so the idea is that as I said before, I've mentioned this before, Aegon's reign was full of, you know, the corrupt and the sycophantic, and the realm sort of stagnated and rotted a bit from within, and Daeron tried to cure that, but in doing so, in doing that, he created a lot of enemies, which is a shame. But yeah, I think George R. R. Martin has talked about wanting to write more about the reign of Aegon IV, and saying that if he did, it would be... Was it George R. R. Martin who said this? I'm sure he said it would be like a Blackadder style farce. You know, it would be like a farcical comedy with this sort of buffoon on the throne and all these sycophants and lickspittles and schemers sort of trying to screw each other over, and, you know, a bit like Blackadder.
Sister Daenerys to Prince Marin Martell, finally bringing dawn under the overlordship of the Iron Throne.
I forgot to end the poll. Hold on a sec. Let me end the poll. What are the final results of the poll? We have 102 votes in. Why did Aegon IV legitimise his bastards? 52% say it's because he hated Daeron. 44% say it was an act of impulse because he's, you know, that's the kind of man he was. And 4% say he loved his bastards. So only 4% think... Only 4% think the main reason he was he did that was out of love, how untrusting you are of Aegon IV.
The Dornish were viewed as enemies to many in Westeros. Savage bandits and raiders they had tried to conquer numerous times before. Now the enemy were marrying into the royal bloodline and being invited to court, with Dorne itself receiving greater rights and autonomy compared to the rest of the Seven Kingdoms.
So yeah, as I mentioned before, Dorne remains a principality. There's still a Prince of Dorne. Right, like Doran Martell in the main books, he is still the Prince of Dorne. Dorne is still somewhat distinct from the rest of the Seven Kingdoms, but they still serve the Iron Throne, so there's no more warfare in that sense.
To make matters more complex, Daeron himself had already married Maren's sister, Myria Martell. With her, he sired 4 sons, Baelor, Aerys, Rhaegal, and Maekar. The eldest, now the heir to the throne.
Let's go through these boys.
Baelor, Aerys, Rhaegal, and Maekar.
I'm not going to pause every 2 seconds, by the way. Don't worry. So yes, Baelor Breakspear, the eldest, who looks Dornish. Baelor Breakspear is also a great name. And in fact, yeah, one thing I didn't mention in the video is that Baelor being named after Baelor the Blessed, even that pissed people off, because they were like, really? Your heir is going to be named after the kind of the weak, like, super religious king, you know? They're like, choose a warrior's name, damn it, you know? Aerys the First, very sort of bookish, more so than his father Daeron, like super solitary, isolated, poring over scrolls and books, didn't pay attention to his wife, didn't have any children, may have been asexual. There are rumours that he was obsessed with prophecy and that's why Bloodraven was his hand, but we might go into that later. Rhaegal, we don't know too much about Prince Rhaegal, just that he was apparently mad. He would run a dance through the Red Keep naked, but maybe he wasn't mad, maybe he was just vibing, you know? Maybe they didn't understand his vibes. And then there's Maekar Targaryen, of course. Whoops.
The eldest, now the heir to the throne, inherited his mother's Dornish looks. King Daeron ennobled his popular half-brother, granting him land. By now, Lord Daemon Blackfyre had married the beautiful Rohan of Tyrosh and sired at least 9 children. 7 sons, including the twins Aegon and Aemon, as well.
Oh, here we go. So, yes. Let's go through the... Oh, yeah, Rohan of Tyrosh. So, she's, again, another very important, interesting female character in the histories we know nothing about. That does seem to be the case for a lot of female characters, sort of pre A Song of Ice and Fire, but post Dance of the Dragons. But, to be fair, a lot of that period is Fire and Blood Part 2. And, you know, hopefully that will reveal more about a lot of these characters, male and female. But Rohan of Tyrosh, we don't know how involved she was in the rebellion. We don't know if she supported it or opposed it, whether she pushed for it, you know, was she a schemer in her own right? Was she as fervent as Bittersteel and Fireball, or was she opposed to it? I don't know. But because she's from Tyrosh and the Tyroshi are known for dyeing their hair, I was like, I know, there's lots of artwork of her that gives her purple or pink hair, so I thought I'd give her a sort of purplish hair with some dark roots showing to sort of represent her Tyroshi nature.
At least 9 children, 7 sons.
There we go, the 7 sons. We know this because Eustace Osgrey was like, oh, it took 7 arrows to kill him, and he had 7 sons, and you know, all of this symbolism, all of this linking to the faith of the 7. I don't know if it was intentional on Daemon's part, like maybe he was just down bad for some Rohanacy, or maybe he was like, I must have 7 sons because I am a godly man. Could be either, could be both. He died, like, what was it? We worked this out on the Discord. He died when he was like 24 or 26 or some ridiculously low number. And he married when he was like 14 or something. So basically in the span of 10 years he had minimum 9 children, which is... No, it was more than 10 years, but even so, he was a busy man. But anyway, so his eldest sons were twins, Aegon and Aemon, who apparently were bullies to Daemon, his 3rd son, which is quite reminiscent of Theon Greyjoy. Theon being the 3rd son of Balon Greyjoy, he had 2 older brothers, Maren and Roderick, who apparently bullied him, helped their father's rebellion, but were killed. There's definitely a parallel there. Not intentional. I'm not claiming it's intentional. I just mean, presumably, you know, from the well of creativity, George sometimes draws out the same water. That was a bad analogy. Anyway, moving on.
including...
Oh yeah, wait, yeah. So there's Daemon, who of course goes on for Second Blackfyre Rebellion, and because I gave him the darkest eyes that are technically purple, but they're so dark they might not look purple, and because he dyes his hair, you don't notice the purple during the Second Blackfyre Rebellion, so that's a nod to that.
The twins Aegon and Aemon, as well as Daemon, Haegon and
Yeah, Haegon being the one who launches the Third Blackfyre Rebellion, and Aenys who foolishly trusts Bloodraven.
Aenys, and at least 2 daughters.
So yeah, 2 more sons, they're unnamed. All we know is Aegon, Aemon, Daemon, Haegon, and Aenys. And because we know he had 7 sons, we know there are 2 more.
Including Calla.
Yeah, 2 daughters, and that's because I think the phrase is Bittersteel escaped with Daemon's sons and daughters. So at least 2 daughters. I can't see them having any more, just in terms of the time frame. Like, there's no way they had more than 9 kids, realistically, even if 2 were twins. But yeah, one is Calla, who went on to marry Bittersteel. We don't know anything about what Calla got up to. We don't know if she had any children with Bittersteel even. And yeah.
This friendly gesture proved fruitless. Daeron was viewed as a weak monarch. He was a small man, more of a scholar than a fighter, who supposedly only listened to the advice of...
I will say, a lot of these character models, when you, like, for this video, by the way, I made something like 150 assets. So that's backgrounds, objects, and characters, mostly characters. And sometimes the same characters, but like younger, older, wearing different things. 150 or so. Whew. Your boy worked hard. This Daeron is an old one, and I kind of wish I'd fix him up a bit before the video, because I don't like his expression. I don't like how small his eyes are. I like the costume and the cape, and I like the little goatee. I just don't like... The expression looks kind of angry, and the eyes are small, and it kind of gives him like a dickish vibe, and that's not Daeron's vibe at all. That's not Daeron the Good's vibe at all. I think it's the crown. I think his expression's fine, but the crown transforms it into something else, so he kind of... I don't know. But yeah, there are the Martells. And I had Bloodraven looking in the side because he was also in King's Landing helping Daeron.
Women and Dornishmen. To make matters worse, there were rumours abound that Daeron himself was a bastard, the illegitimate love child of Queen Daenerys and Sir Aemon the Dragon Knight, Aegon IV's brother.
I hope that theory is true. I hope so much of that theory is true. That's one of my... It would be so much fun if, you know, the bastard Daemon Blackfyre was... primogeniture-wise, more legitimate than Daeron. If Daemon Blackfyre was actually the son of Aegon IV, while Daeron was the son of Aemon the Dragon Knight. I really like that idea. That's really fun. And people have pointed out it's kind of similar to Bobby B, right? Big, fat, debaucherous king. His wife has an affair with her sibling, and then they have bastards on who inherit the throne. Yeah, maybe. That could be a poll. Let's have another poll in the chat then. Do you believe that King Daeron II is legitimate? And that the rumours are started by Aegon out of spite and they're all lies and bullshit? Or do you think Daeron II is actually a bastard, and and sort of the point of the rebellion is that Daemon is actually more legitimate than Daeron, technically? Let's have a look. So, was Daeron II a bastard? Yes or no? The poll is going out in the chat, so jump into the poll if you're interested. And while the poll is going out, I'll continue.
These rumours had in part been fueled by Aegon himself. Infamously, Sir Morgil Hastwyck openly accused Aemon of such misdeeds, perhaps at Aegon's bidding, and was challenged to a duel. He lost, of course, but the rumours persisted. Daeron was seen as a weak, scholarly puppet of the Dornish and enemy of his father's lickspittles. Daemon, on the other hand, was a...
That's a good catch. That's a good catch in the comments. I'm trying to catch up to the comments too. Batflash said, "Is that Ariane's design for the Dornish girl?" Yes. I wasn't happy with... I wasn't happy with that being Ariane Martell's design, because that was my old Ariane design in my early videos. So I repurposed it and went, okay, that can be Maria Martell, and then I'll redesign Ariane at a new point. She got too much of a chin, bruh.
Only
know what I'm saying?
previously, Sir Morgil Hastwick openly accused Aemon of such misdeeds, perhaps at Aegon's bidding, and was challenged to a duel. He lost, of course, but the rumours persisted. Daeron was seen as a weak, scholarly puppet of the Dornish and enemy of his father's lickspittles. Daemon, on the other hand, was a handsome...
Yes, that's just to respond again to someone in the chat. Callum said, I don't think the point is Daemon is more legitimate, but rather both these guys are fighting over bullshit reasons. That's what I meant to say, sorry. I'm not saying the point of the Blackfyre Rebellion is that Daemon is in fact legitimate and therefore should win. The point is that it's all kind of nonsense. You know, it's all ultimately meaningless. Oh yeah, another good point by Boombler. Curious how Daeron II is the bastard, but Daenerys is 100% legit. Yeah, I guess Daeron II being a bastard is more of an issue. It is more of a political talking point for the Blackfyres than saying it's Daenerys.
Charismatic warrior, a strong ruler for some, a perfect puppet for others. He may be a bastard, but he had been gifted Blackfyre and legitimised by King Aegon. And besides, was Daeron not just the bastard son of Prince Aemon? The stage was set for rebellion. Perhaps politics.
Okay, now we're on to the next part of the video, which is the first Blackfyre rebellions. Before we jump into that, I'll end the live stream. Not the live stream. I'll end the live stream. I'll end the poll. Wherever the poll is. Where's the poll? There it is. 66 votes in. Oh, it's still climbing though. Should I leave it up? I'll leave the poll up because it's actually kind of close. As in, it could be changed. Yes, say 46. No. Most people say no, Daeron wasn't a bastard. And some people in the chat are pointing out that if he was a bastard, why wouldn't Aegon come out and be like, yeah, my son's a... I guess he wouldn't know, is the idea. Aegon IV has already made that claim before. He wouldn't know for sure. He might just be like, you know... I don't know if him declaring it on his deathbed would make it... I don't know.
Politics were not as important as matters of the heart. It was...
So yeah, that's an important line there. Perhaps politics were not as important as matters of the heart, because, yeah, there are lots of geopolitical reasons for the rebellions to break out, but as Gurm always says, nothing worth writing about. The only thing worth writing about is the human heart in conflict with itself. That's him paraphrasing an author whose name I always forget. I'm sure someone will remind me in the chat. But yeah, it's one thing to have political motivations, but you need to have the personal angle. You need to have that sort of emotional human side to all these things. So looking into the future, looking at young Griff, you know, yeah, sure, Illyrio and Varys, putting someone on the throne, that makes them powerful, that makes them wealthy, that gives them influence, etc. But there has to be a personal reason behind it. And that's why the Blackfyre theory, the young Griff Blackfyre theory, is so compelling and so convincing, because the idea that Illyrio is beyond the wealth and the prestige and the influence, beyond all that, is doing it to put his son on the throne as a promise to his dead wife, and Varys wants to help his lifelong friend, that means more, you know. That means so much more, and it's so much more interesting than just pure politics.
Supposedly,
and so here we have the bitter Blackfyres and sort of why they convince him to rise up, sort of out of spite. It's more, listen, you're popular, you could succeed in this. We're kind of spiteful right now.
Blackfyre's closest friends who convinced him to claim the Iron Throne. Sir Aegor Rivers, who was betrothed to Daemon's daughter Calla, despised...
Yeah, Bittersteel being betrothed to Calla. Again, we don't know. Did they have kids? Is there like a house Bittersteel? Is there a house Bittersteel out there? That would be fucking cool. I don't know.
That the Blackwoods, in particular Bloodraven, had kept their influence at court. Meanwhile, Sir Quentyn Bull was furious at being rejected from the Kingsguard by Daeron. There are even some rumours that Daemon...
So yeah, those first two, Bittersteel ultimately hates Bloodraven. He doesn't like the Blackwoods keeping influence. He also just hates Bloodraven. He hates that Bloodraven's still at court and that he's allied with Daeron. He hates that Bloodraven's probably on the council by now. He hates that Bloodraven is still with Shiera Seastar, and he's like, fuck you, fuck the man who stole the woman I love, fuck the woman I love, and all their allies. Let's rise up against them and root them out. Love can do crazy things. And then Quentyn Bull is like, I want to be in the Kingsguard. I threw my wife away for the Kingsguard. Your father promised it to me. Then you've taken over and you're not giving me that promise. So it sort of represents... Quentin Bull represents the disillusioned nobles who were promised all these things by Aegon IV, only for him to be... Aegon to die without fulfilling anything, and then Daeron saying, well, I can't do that, sorry. And so it's like, well, fuck you, I'm gonna find another puppet who can. Someone who's friendly with me, Daemon. And I do believe we would have seen Lord Commander Quentin Bull of the Kingsguard had Daemon succeeded. And I do want to say, I'll say it now, there are definitely fun parallels with some of the Blackfyre rebellions. And again, when I say parallels, I'm not saying it's intentional or narrative. It could easily just be, George is one man, he has a subconscious, maybe he draws the same things from it. What did I say earlier? He goes back to the same creative well and he draws the same water. What was that terrible analogy I made before? Anyway, he uses the same bucket, that'd be better. Sometimes he uses the same bucket. Right, that still doesn't make sense, but never mind. But yeah, what was I saying? Yes, parallels. There's a parallel where... So the first Blackfyre rebellion, you have the gruff, angry, bitter Steel, who's like, look, I'm going to help organise things for you. I'm going to get you on the throne. And then you have Quentin Bull, who's the, I want to be your Lord Commander. And then you have a pretender, Daemon. Fast forward to the second Blackfyre rebellion, what do we have? We have the pretender, Daemon II. We have the gruff, older man who's going to organise everything and get you on the throne. That's Gorman Peak. And then we have the other man who's like, I'm a warrior and I want to be your Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. That's Alan Cockshaw. Fast forward to Young Griff in the main book series, whether he's a Blackfyre or not. We have Aegon Targaryen / Blackfyre, young man. We have the gruff older man organising it, John Connington. And then we have the, hey, I want to serve in your Kingsguard and I'll probably be your Lord Commander, Rolly Duckfield. So we have a lot of Blackfyre pretenders with a sort of a gruff hand figure and a Lord Commander of the Kingsguard on the other side, a hand and a Lord Commander on each of his shoulders.
And Blackfyre himself was in love with Princess Daenerys, and was heartbroken when Daeron shipped her off to Dawn.
So this one's definitely up for dispute. The Fireball and Bitter Steel people seem to agree with, but this one's more of a rumour that Daemon loved Daenerys Targaryen and wanted to marry her, but they weren't allowed to marry because, of course, he's just a bastard and she's a princess, even if he is ennobled. And that she was shipped off to marry some Dornishman, some foreign Dornishman, and then he was deprived, and so he hated Daemon for that, for taking away the woman he loves and casting her away, because he wasn't, like Littlefinger, he wasn't powerful enough, he wasn't highborn enough to marry her, or something like that. And then people say, no, that's not true, because there's no account of Daenerys caring about Daemon, and Daemon was married to Rohanna of Tyrosh and had lots of kids, blah, blah, blah. Like, it seems like more of a romantic addition. A little bit of spice, a little bit more spice people sprinkled into the story over time, but it's not necessarily true. Personally, I don't know, but I think, yeah, maybe there's truth to it, maybe not. I'll end the poll. It's been 9 minutes. We got 95 votes. The conclusion: was Daeron II a bastard? Now that I've ended it, need to wait for it to pop up. There we go. 56% of you say no, Daeron II was not a bastard. That's ridiculous. But 43% say yes, he was. Interesting. I'm inclined to say yes. I think it's more interesting if it's yes, but most people say no. Honestly, it might be like a kind of... It might be a kind of a mixture. Like it might be... Or no, it might be like a romanticized version of the story. It could be that maybe Daemon was just down bad for Daenerys, Maybe he just had a crush on his half-sister. And then, like, she got sent off to Dawn and he was like, oh, damn, that's a shame. I guess I'm just going to go off with my hot wife and have 10 kids. And then the singers were like, oh, he was dearly in love with Daenerys. And he rose up in rebellion out of angst.
All we know for certain is that Daemon's decision to claim the throne reached Daeron's ears.
Oh, there's a mistake. There is a continuity error. I did not notice this before. I've watched through this video so many times, I haven't noticed this before.
All we know for certain is that Daemon...
So before Daemon announces that he wants to be king, like officially proclaims it, the news reaches Bloodraven. So they interrupt it. So obviously he decides, okay, I'm going to rise up in rebellion, but he wants to gather his forces, gather time, organise. But while he's doing that, it leaks out. And so Daeron's like, quickly, we have to arrest him with Kingsguard before he can do this. But the arrest attempt is foiled, and Daemon's like, okay, I have to do it now. I'm not ready, but I have to launch my rebellion right now. But the error, some of you may have spotted, I've got the wrong model of Bloodraven. I've got the one where he's missing an eye, which makes no sense.
His decision to claim the
Damn
throne
it.
reached Daeron's ears. Kingsguard was sent to apprehend him, but he escaped their custody.
It's over.
Swiftly and prematurely proclaimed himself King Daemon I of the House Blackfyre in 196 AC, and took the Black Dragon on red as his coat of arms, while the great houses stood behind the Red Dragon.
So I threw in some, the main great houses seem to... We got House Martell, obviously, because of that link. House Tyrell, Lord Leo Longthorn supported the Blackfyres. Lord Daemon Lannister supported the Blackfyres. We know the Tullys did. We know Lord Donald Arryn did. And here I have Daemon Lannister, Leo Marin. We don't... the Starks, I didn't mention this in my video. It was brought... I somehow missed this during my research. It was brought to my attention by a patron earlier. That the North was actually just... The Starks were distracted. Because the North was... There were Scargosi rebellions. The island of Scargos was rebelling. The North was distracted. They couldn't join either side of the rebellion. They probably would have joined the Targaryens, but it gave the Blackfyres that fighting chance.
Lord Bannerman saw an opportunity to rally back.
Yeah, and then while a lot of the great houses sided with the Blackfyres, a lot of the minor houses, the Bannerman, the side hose, they sided with House Blackfyre because they thought, here's an attempt to gain some power. Maybe we can be Lord Paramounts ourselves. So in the corner here, the Ironwoods of Dawn, second most powerful house in Dawn. House Peak of the Reach, super powerful Reach house. House Rain in the Westerlands, again, second most powerful and second most wealthy house. House Bracken in the Riverlands, related to Bittersteel. And House Sunderly in the Vale. This one's kind of the odd one out. The rest of these are like powerful, wealthy, could genuinely take over their respective Lord Paramouncies. But the Sunderlys are like the sister men. They're the lords of the inbred, webbed-fingered islands known as the sister men. I can't see the Sunderlys being accepted as Lords Paramount of the Vale, but there you go. And here we have the Rain Lord, Gorman Peak, and Eustace Osgrey.
Behind the Black Dragon to increase their power.
Yeah, I didn't put House Osgrey in the sigil because, I don't think it was like a major Bannerman house. And I only had so much space.
Power. Other houses supported both sides, including...
Oh, and then there's the Mac from Always Sunny. I support both sides. I always come out on top. That's House Tarbeck, House Hightower, House Oakhart, and House Butterwell. So yeah, Lord Butterwell, who was the Hand and then got fired from his position as Hand, supported both sides. Very slimy guy. I'm surprised we don't know what House Frey got up to. I bet they were both sides.
The Hightowers in the Reach. Most of the Blackfyre support came from anti-Dornish lords and knights in the Stormlands and the Reach. Battles raged from the Reach to the Vale.
Yeah, again, because we don't have Fire and Blood Part 2, we don't know that much about the rebellion. We just know that there were battles throughout Westeros. You know, in the Westerlands, in the Reach, in the Vale, in the Riverlands, in the Crownlands. We just don't know the extent of them.
Fireball led a bloody campaign across the Westerlands. He slew Lord Lefford at the gates of Lannisport, defeated Lord Daemon Lannister in battle, and slew all but one of Lady Penrose's sons at the crossing of the Mander. The last he spared as a courtesy.
Quentin Bull, Fireball, he's pretty cool. He's a bit of a dick, but he's a very competent commander. He does have he has Kristen Cole vibes, doesn't he? Kind of angry, macho, Lord Commander, Kingsguard, going out commanding armies and being kind of being relatively competent at it. He's got Kristen Cole vibes, I think.
Targaryen banner, however, Lord Leo Tyrell won several victories against the Blackfyres in the Reach. The rebellion was also a war of politics. King Daemon Blackfyre began minting his own...
Before we continue...
hired...
Oh, whoops. There we go. This video is sponsored by Daemon Coin. So if you'd like a brand new cryptocurrency, I'd suggest buying lots of Daemon Coin. Straight to the moon, people. I want to see rocket emojis in the chat. We're going straight to the moon with Daemon Coin. We're going to be billionaires before the year is over. Fuck yeah.
His own coinage and unsuccessfully hired the thief Quickfinger to steal dragon eggs.
So yeah, again, one of those like one-liners in World of Ice and Fire. There's just some dude called Quickfinger who tried to steal dragon eggs for Daemon and got caught. What's that story? That's like the toned down version of Blood and Cheese from the Dance of the Dragons. It's Quickfinger in the egg.
Meanwhile, King Daeron Targaryen fired his hand, Lord Ambrose Butterwell, who was proving so incompetent as to be considered potentially treasonous. He was replaced by the trusted loyalist, Lord Hayford. In late 196, the rebellion reached its zenith, as the Blackfyres approached King's Landing.
Okay, this part of the video was a bastard. This was a bastard. I cannot stress to you enough how annoying this... Like, I was working super hard. I was amped up on coffee. I haven't had ADHD meds for a long time, so I'm really struggling to pay attention. The fighting is really difficult. The prelude stuff, where it's more character comes in, text transitions. It's this still takes time and effort and creativity, but it's okay. But this stuff, like the fighting, the fighting is the worst part. It takes ages. It's satisfying to watch back, and it's like, yeah, fuck yeah, I did that. But it's it's okay. Shall we get the violin emojis out? Actually, I'm complaining about the horror, the sadness of being a YouTuber. Poor me. Bring out the violin. Please cry for me. Moving on. What I'm trying to say is it took a long time to do the fights, but I think it was worth it.
Landing and met
Bitter bucks. What are people coming up with different crypto ideas in the chat? No, dump your Bitterbuck stock. Daemon Coin all the way. Where even was the Battle of Redgrass Field? Yeah, we don't know. We don't know where the Battle of Redgrass Field was. There's just a place that's now called Redgrass Field. There was a lot I couldn't go into much detail with this video. So I was thinking, do I do individual videos about each rebellion? But then I thought, no, it's more satisfying to have it in one video, and also there would be enough content.
the Targaryen.
Oh, I also didn't bring up. I talked. Okay, so I talked about Daemon Coin as a meme, but the idea of minting coinage, it was quite. It is an act of legitimacy. It's cementing his legitimacy. He's like, okay, we have our own currency, we have our own coinage with Daemon's face on it. He is the king. This is the coinage we are going to use in Westeros. Even if it didn't really mean much practically, it was a good piece of propaganda. I think in the main books, it's Wyman Manderley who goes to goes to Bran Stark and says, "Do I have permission to start minting, northern coinage that's separate from the gold dragons and silver stags of the south with Rob's face on it?" And Bran says yes.
In the field, both sides were at a disadvantage. The Blackfyres had sent Lord Bracken across the narrow sea to hire Myrish crossbowmen, but storms delayed their return.
So yeah, that will be another aspect of my future upcoming what if the Blackfyre rebellion succeeded. One of the points of divergence might be, what if Lord Bracken and the Myrish crossbowmen got back in time and were able to ambush a certain character and a certain army.
To make matters worse, one of their most competent commanders, Fireball himself, had stopped for a drink of water, only to be slain by an archer. Perhaps a random Targaryen loyalist, or perhaps one of the Raven's Teeth, Sir Brynden River's personal guard.
So, I think there are two reasons why Fireball dies this way. One, I think it's to sort of feed into that like randomness of real life, you know, where you look at historical stuff, and sometimes things in history do seem to play out in a satisfying, almost narrative way, right? Like a movie, like a book, like a story. And other times it's just randomness and chance, and you think, oh, okay. So something about Fireball just being like killed with a random arrow the night before the big battle feeds into that. It's that kind of just the random brutality of life, you know. It does remind me somewhat of the death of King Richard I, who was he was a powerful, influential man in France. He fought in the Third Crusade, and he found a load of success there, and he blah blah blah. But while sieging a castle in, I believe it was in France, some random kid shot him with a crossbow. You know, we don't even know why. And then he died of his wounds. And it's like, okay, someone like Richard the Lionheart, slain with a crossbow. Yeah, it's weird. And I think another reason is it gives yet another reasons for why the Blackfyres lost that battle. It's like, here's a really powerful, competent commander. Boom, he's been assassinated the day before. Maybe a deliberate political assassination. Political / strategic assassination. Maybe just randomness and chance. But either way, he's dead. That's a morale blow. That's a blow to the Blackfyres' morale and to their strategic ability moving forwards, because Fireball was the guy winning all the battles. At least that we know of.
The Targaryens, meanwhile, were forced to fight before the experienced Lord Leo Tyrell could make it to the battle in time. The Black Dragon himself commanded his host with his two eldest sons, Aegon and Aemon. Lord Costane commanded the left of Daemon's host, while Lord Shawnee and Aegor Rivers commanded the right.
I was when I was making the video, I realised I'd forgotten to draw a bunch of characters. So when I was like playing the audio on DaVinci Resolve and like animating stuff, it was like Lord Costane and Lord Shawnee, and I was like, oh no, I haven't drawn either of them, have I? So I had to like quickly like draw like this coat of arms on this surcoat, and then this the fish man. God damn. Here's a fun fact. You get to know this because you're on the stream. Lord Costane. This is This is Garland Tyrell's character model, turned into an old man. And this is Loras Tyrell's character model, turned into Lord Shawnee. Shh, tell no one. Also, do you like the Bracken shield? I'm proud of that. That looks cool. I also you may also notice, because a lot of the same characters stay throughout these rebellions, I had to make like 5 different versions of each character to show them aging up. So as, let's say, Bitsteel and Bloodraven go through the rebellions, they get darker rings under their eyes, they get lines, their hair goes greyer. I think I even give Bitsteel like a man bun.
Aegor Rivers commanded the right. The Targaryen host boasted Sir Brynden Rivers, as well as the Hand Lord Hayford and Lord Donal Arryn's vanguard.
Okay, I missed out a very, very important... another fun fact.
And
Lord Donal Arryn's face, I think, is based off of my old Harold Harding character model. Harold Harding being, of course, descended from the Arryns, and he's the Arryn heir in the Vale in the books. But I missed out a very important character here, that being Prince Maekar. I say later in the video that Prince Baelor and Prince Maekar arrived with new troops, but that's not true. Prince Baelor arrived with new troops. Prince Maekar was already in the army, in the Targaryen host. So yeah, I messed up a bit there.
Donal Arryn's vanguard. The Blackfyres smashed through the Targaryen vanguard, almost forcing a retreat before Sir Gawain Corbray of the Kingsguard arrived with reinforcements. Both sides suffered. The loyalist Lord Hayford was slain by Gorman Peak, while the 3 sons of the rebel Eustace Osgrey were felled. King Daemon and Sir Gawain met in the field and duelled for an hour, clashing their Valyrian swords together, until Sir Gawain was wounded.
That entire, strip that I let play uninterrupted, that's, not very long, that's a lot of... that took a lot of time. Just those little fights, the characters running in the background, stampede, sword fights, the camera shaking. The camera shaking was easy. I just dragged the camera shake effect and put it on the hill background. But, yeah.
But then
The fighting takes... Because, yeah. I still haven't perfected it. Like, my fights don't look great.
the field endured for an hour, clashing their Valyrian
Yeah, the swords clash is kind of awkward. I'll probably get better as I go on. Get some cool looking...
until Sigwain was wounded. But then, the Honourable Daemon made a choice that forever cemented the desperate future of his house. Instead of charging onwards, he dismounted to protect the fallen knight.
Another point of divergence here. That will be in my what if video. What if Daemon killed him? What if Daemon kills Gwaine Corbray? Like, in the first 5 minutes of the fight, he's dead, he moves on. He's not there to be assassinated... Not assassinated, that's a wrong word. He's not there to be killed by Bloodraven and the Raven's Teeth in a exposed, stationary position. And he's not there fighting an hour and so on. He just pushes forwards and continues to smash the Targaryen host before Baelor can arrive with reinforcements. And this, some people might recognise this man, with the very cool coat of arms. I'll turn the subtitles off. Who could this man be? This is no Song of Ice and Fire character at all. This is none other than Sir Boombler, one of my patrons. There's a certain patron tier. I believe it's... Which one is it? Is it Lord Bannerman? I think it's Lord Bannerman. I'll draw a character for you and send you a PNG. And it can be whatever you want. And there's a higher tier called Lord of Light, which is actually the highest tier, where you get to have that character be a cameo in the video. So it could be in the background, in the foreground. And so this is Boombler, one of my Lords of Light, the Polish weeb himself, who's coming in to bravely drag Sir Gwaine Corbray to maesters in the rear. Boombler is canonically the man who saved Gwaine Corbray's life.
The maesters in the rear. Whatever drove him that day, honour, compassion, guilt, proved fatal. Bloodraven and the Raven's Teeth positioned themselves on the Weeping Ridge and rained arrows down on the stationary king. The young Aegon Blackfyre was the first to fall, followed by the Black Dragon himself.
Here's something I didn't bring up. I cut it from the audio because it was I was trying to tighten up the video. But you may notice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It took 7 arrows to fell him. He had 7 sons, 7 kingdoms, 7 gods, 7 arrows. It all feeds into the mythos of Daemon, the nostalgic mythos of Daemon, the dead king, the rightful heir to the throne, what could have been. You know, probably a myth. It probably didn't take 7 arrows to kill him, but that's what the Blackfyre say.
Dragon himself. Prince Aemon picked up Blackfyre in his father's stead, but he too was swiftly slain. The rebel army began to flee, but the
Someone asked, could I get a bull's head great helm if you did a character? Yeah, I mean, it's that patron tier is basically a commission. It's like, make a Haven version, or make a Haven art character of... It could be like a pop culture character. It could be you, like I've looked a picture of you and I turn you into a character. It could be a CK3 character you've made. It can be whatever you want it to be. So, bull head helmet, yeah, sure. Whatever you want it to be.
Battle was not over. Bitter Steel...
I actually owe some people some character. There are 2 patrons I owe art to. Yes. Key, Mini, I need to make your character art. I can do that this week because I'm taking this week off. This week I'm doing like live streams. In terms of YouTube videos, I'm having a break. I'm doing live streams, I'm going to tidy my flat. After this week, I'm going back to videos, and then we're going to get Young Griff and What If and all that stuff. Young Griff, What If? Bars.
He took command and transformed the rout into a charge. He faced his hated rival, and the brothers fought fiercely, until Bloodraven lost his eye. This time, the future of the battle was decided by princes, Baelor, Breakspear, and Maekar. Baelor's host of Stormlanders and...
Yeah, excuse me. To be fair, I never said that Maekar arrived with Baelor. But I should have mentioned earlier that he was part of the army.
Cornish spearmen attacked the Blackfyres from one side, while Maekar rallied the Targaryen van and created a shield wall. The remaining rebel forces were crushed between the hammer and the anvil. It was finally over. 10,000 men died, and the blood-stained...
It's over, everyone, it's over.
...and ground formed the basis for the name of this fight, the Battle of the Red Grass Field. Bittersteel retrieved Blackfyre and fled to Essos in exile with...
Yeah, Bittersteel retrieved Blackfyre and fled to Essos in exile is how every single rebellion ends.
Daemon's widow and the surviving children, where he established a brotherhood of exiles known as...
The Golden Company. I love the way I had them look. Look at these goofy helmets. another patron cameo. This is Dev Cole, who wanted his PNG, so I said it can be characters, he wanted his PNG to be Thoros of Myr, and so he's got Thoros of Myr as his profile picture, and I was like, how do I make Thoros? How do I give him a cameo in this? So I basically transformed this character into like a Golden Company Red Priest in the background, which is quite cool.
As the Golden Company. Meanwhile, King Daeron II stripped Blackfyre rebels of their lands and wealth.
Yeah, the examples I gave here. I said I wasn't going to pause every 2 seconds. I am. I won't for the whole video.
Daeron II stripped Blackfyre.
So yeah, Gorman Peak. The man lost some castles. I think he lost 2 of his castles. So the House Peak, the sigil was famously 3 castles, 3 black castles on orange. It's a reference to the author Mervyn Peake, who wrote the Gormenghast trilogy. That's about Castle Gormenghast. 3 books about castles, 3 castles, House Peak. It's a loving reference. I haven't read those books yet, but the Peak castles are Starpike, Dunstanbury, which used to belong to the Manderleys, and a third one I always forget. They lost 2, presumably Dunstanbury in the third one, and they held on to House Peak. So, they held on to Castle Starpike. But yes, the Peaks were not happy. Gorman lost a lot of land for supporting the Blackfyres. Eustace Osgrey lost his sons, and his daughter killed herself. And now he's in one of the Duncan Egg novellas in The Sworn Sword. He's a depressed landed knight in his castle, no longer as powerful and prestigious as he used to be. And then this scumbag is of course Boombler. I don't know how he snuck his way into the Iron Throne, into the throne room.
By rebels of their lands and
Whitegrove, thank you Casper. Yes, Whitegrove. The 3 Peak castles are Starpike, Dunstanbury, and Whitegrove.
wealth, demanded numerous hostages, and secured his position on the Iron Throne. As long as the
So that was the first... Oh wait, no, nearly.
Blackfyre survived, the Targaryen dynasty was not safe. The next in line to the...
So yes. I will check Super Chats. Super Chat time. Thank you for the Super Chat from John Cribbin, who said, is Lady Penrose Elena Targaryen married to Penrose? Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so yes, one of the 3 daughters of Aegon III was Elena Targaryen, who, went on to marry Lord Penrose. Possibly. I don't think so, no. I don't think so, because her name isn't described. That's a great question, but she's only described as Lady Penrose, and if it was Elena Targaryen, the text would say that. Like, if it was Quentin Bull killed the daughters of Elena Targaryen, who's married to Lord Penrose, I think it would be explicit there. But it just says Lady Penrose, which implies no. Maybe Lady Penrose is like a daughter of Elena Targaryen, perhaps? I don't know. But interesting. Thank you for the super chat as well from Coleshot, who says, in the Patreon stream, I looked at the Rebellion map, and I think somewhere south of Harrenhal between the Crownlands and the Riverlands. Oh, the Redgrass Field. Yes. Yeah. I assume so too. Yeah, that's where I picture it in my head, right? Like in the Crownlands, between the Crownlands and the Riverlands, to the north of King's Landing. But we don't know the specific location of the Redgrass Field, but yeah. And thank you for the super chat that's just come in from Alfie, who says, thoughts on House Brightflame. So, for those who don't know, there's a Prince Aerion Targaryen. He's the second son of King Maekar I. So in relation to this video, Prince Maekar's the 4th son of Daeron II. Let me get my boy up. Where was he?
This time, the future of the battle was decided by princes, Baelor, Breakspear, and Maekar.
There we go. And Maekar becomes King Maekar. And his second son, as I said, was Aerion. And he was known as Aerion Brightflame, and he was a bit of a sadistic lunatic. And he is the Targaryen who famously, or rather infamously, drank wildfire because he thought it would turn him into a dragon. And it didn't. It just killed him. It disintegrated him. So yeah. But here's the thing. As I mentioned later on in the video, there's a Great Council. A Great Council was called because they went, okay, who should inherit the Iron Throne? Because Daeron the Drunken has a simple-minded daughter. Do we want a girl on the throne? Aerion Brightflame has a baby. Do we want a long regency? And besides, that baby's called Maegor. You know, that's bad vibes. He could be crazy like his father. And then Aegon ended up being elected. Then it was Aegon V. As I mentioned that in the Great Council section. But people have often questioned what happened to Aerion Brightflame's son. Right? He had a baby son called Maegor, named after Maegor the Cruel, to be provocative, I guess. What happened to him? It's not mentioned. We don't know. Did he have any kids? Did he die young? What happened to him? Did he become a maester? Did he join the Night's Watch? Did he become a septon? We genuinely don't know. And there are some who theorize that there is a House Blackfyre. So there are Targaryens descended from Maegor specifically who arguably have a better claim to the throne. And there are even some theories that House Brightflame were the original House Blackfyre, because in the first 2 Game of Thrones books, we know that there's an Aerion Brightflame who drank wildfire and died, but there's no mention of House Blackfyre. In the first Duncan Egg novella, The Hedge Knight, we meet Aerion Brightflame. We don't hear anything about the Blackfyres. But then suddenly, Storm of Swords onwards, Blackfyre references. The second and third Duncan Egg novellas, Swan Sword and Mystery Knight, respectively, we hear about the Blackfyres. So the theory is, George always had the idea for a pretender, the Mama's Dragon. A pretender who would take the throne from Daenerys. Maybe there'd be some kind of civil war, something like that. And the theory goes that the original plan was that House Brightflame would take over. The descendants of Aerion Brightflame who were passed over for Aegon, they would come. House Brightflame. But then George came up with the Blackfyres. He went, actually, the Blackfyres are way better. The Blackfyres are way better. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me, sorry. So yes, do I think... I like the idea that House Brightflame may have been his original idea for a pretender house. A claimant to the throne. Personally, I don't think there is a House Brightflame. I don't know what role they'd serve in the story. I think we would have heard about them by now. I am really curious to hear what happened to Maegor, but considering he hasn't rocked up yet, or any of his descendants have been mentioned, or anything, I guess he probably just dies. Maybe he died at Summerhall without kids or something. But yeah, good question. Thank you for the super chat from Boombler, who says, calling me a scumbag? How dare you? Also funny, you made my character look angry all the time despite me being such a joyful fella. Yes, the angry was to make you look serious during the battle. And then, of course, you're in the middle of the battle. You're in the Iron Throne being stripped of your land. Of course you're going to be angry. I think I do have a happy Boombler later in the video. I'm sure I do. But yeah, thank you for the super chat. Let's go back to the video. Where were we? Second Blackfyre Rebellion.
He was not safe. The next in line to the Blackfyre claim was the Black Dragon's third son, Daemon II. For some reason, his claim was not supported by Bittersteel and the Golden Company, which may have been due to his homosexuality. Yeah.
I don't know if has that been confirmed? George may have confirmed that, but it's just heavily hinted that Daemon was gay, and that his lover was Alan Cockshaw, and for reasons we don't know, Bittersteel and the Golden Company didn't support him, so people put 2 and 2 together and go, okay, Bittersteel and the Golden Company didn't want to throw their support behind a gay king, I guess. I say heavy hints. I was one of the many who did not pick up on that hint when I first read the book. I think I picked up on Alan Cockshaw being into him, but I kind of thought it was like an unrequited thing, but I think it has been confirmed that he is gay, but yeah.
Yet that didn't...
Also, I think that is kind of odd. Bittersteel and the Golden Company not supporting the next Blackfyre claimant because he's gay? Like, would they really care that much? They'd just be like, yeah, you're the next Blackfyre. You're Daemon Blackfyre's son. Take the throne, get married, have children. Lots of gay people did that in the past. do your best, do your gay stuff in private, you know? It'd be weird that they'd be so opposed that they'd just be like, no, we're not even going to begin to support you. What was their plan? To pass him over completely? How would that work? I don't know. It's probably more than that. It's probably like that was one aspect of maybe Daemon II and Bittersteel's rivalry, but there was like more going on, more political stuff. I don't know. Maybe we'll probably learn more in Fire and Blood Part 2.
The young man. In 209 AC, the Great Spring sickness swept across Westeros. King Daeron II fell ill and died, as did his grandsons, Valar and Mataris.
Shout out to the boys, Valar and Mataris. My man's got the little streak.
Their father, Baelor Breakspear, had tragically died earlier that year, following a trial by 7.
And, yeah, that's probably a scene we're going to see in the Dunk and Egg adaptation.
Thus, the throne passed to King Aerys I. Aerys was not a popular monarch. His reign was marred by droughts and ironborn raids. He was a bookish, solitary man without issue.
I deliberately... So this is the older Aerys.
He was a book...
I gave him a longer beard to represent the passage of time. I gave him dark rings and lines and sort of red-rimmed eyes to show that he's a sleepless man who like constantly reads. And I also gave him soiled robes to imply he doesn't change very often.
Bookish, solitary man without issue, and people began to whisper that the realm was truly ruled by Bloodraven, the new hand of the king and master of whisperers. He and his occasional lover, Shiera Seastar, were allegedly involved in dark sorcery, and he brutally repressed dissent. Blackfyre supporters were desperate to regain their land and...
There he is, he's back, Boomba's back and he's angry.
Well,
and Gorman Peak.
And the crown was proving unpopular. Furthermore, the Great Spring...
So yeah, you have a someone even more nerdier and solitary than Daeron II, without children, not super popular, hiding away reading comic books and fan fiction. Meanwhile, Bloodraven is truly ruling the realm and everyone thinks he's a grotesque albino dark sorcerer, Elric of Melniboné motherfucker. And they don't trust him and he's brutal in shutting down Blackfyre support. And then you have Ironborn raids, you have droughts, everything's looking kind of grim and everything's looking like, the realm's in a bad state. It's not going well. Maybe a Blackfyre would save the day.
Sickness had killed many hostages, so they had nothing to lose. In 212 AC, a conspiracy was fomented by Sir Tomart Heddle and Lord Gorman Peak, who had lost 2 of his castles. They convinced Lord Ambrose Butterwell to hold a tourney, celebrating his marriage to Lord Frey's daughter, creating conditions for Blackfyre supporters to gather and plot. Among the plotters included Lord Frey himself, as well as Lord Alan Cockshaw, a childhood friend of the young Daemon, and possibly his lover, who wished to serve on his Kingsguard.
George, why the gay guy gotta be called Lord Cockshaw? Come on, man. Come on.
Daemon himself attended the tourney disguised as a hedge knight called John the Fiddler.
On that note, why does the gay guy have to be called John the Fiddler? Fiddler and Cockshaw. Okay, sure. Okay, George.
Without the backing of Bittersteel and the Golden Company, Gorman Peak had to prove Daemon's worth to the others. They planned to rig the tourney to ensure Daemon's success, proving his mettle and allowing him to win the coveted prize.
One thing I do want to mention, which I don't think I clarified in this video, and I kind of wish I had, is that Daemon II isn't aware that the tourney is rigged. He's like, I'm going to rock up to this tourney, I'm going to win, I'm going to show that I'm a great warrior, I'm going to win the dragon egg, and then it will hatch and I'll have a dragon and I'll be able to take King's Landing. But he doesn't know that Gorman Peak and the others are rigging it for him to win. He's a bit like his father. He's portrayed as quite like a nice, honourable dude. Like this section definitely could have been expanded. But yeah, I was up against the clock, but Daemon II seems like a genuinely nice guy. He's nice to Dunk, and he seems genuinely honourable.
Lord Butterwell's dragon egg, which had been gifted to him by Aegon IV years prior.
Oh yes, I didn't go into detail here either, but the reason, if any of you are wondering, why did Aegon IV give Ambrose Butterwell a dragon egg? It's because Aegon wanted to sleep with his daughters. He was like, listen fam, I want to sleep with all 3 of them. What can I give you? He was like, how about a dragon egg? He was like, yeah, there you go. Because why not?
By Aegon IV years prior. Daemon had experienced prophetic dragon dreams showing a dragon hatching at White Walls. With the dragon, nothing would stand between him and the Iron Throne. However, a wrench was thrown in the works, or rather, an egg.
There he is! Monkey D. Luffy. Sorry, I meant Aegon Targaryen.
Duncan
Popping
the
up.
Tall-
See, the problem with giving Duncan the Tall a helmet with a visor that curves diagonally that way is that makes him look angry. Like, the vibes aren't very Dunk. Dunk's a friendly guy. That makes him look like some badass angry warrior. Dunk's a good boy.
and his squire Prince Aegon Targaryen, the youngest son of Prince Maekar, attended the tourney with Glendon Flowers, the alleged bastard of Fireball. The conspiracy was unearthed. Sir Duncan threw Alan Cockshaw down a well.
Yeah, so again, this is honestly, if I wanted to, I probably could have had like the intro, the prelude, and the first rebellion as its own video, the second as its own video, maybe third Great Council, fourth as its own video, and fifth as its own. But I still think it works better as one big animated video. But yes, he doesn't. Just to clarify, for those who don't know, he doesn't just throw him down a well for fun. Like I tried to show. Again, one of those things. If it's not in the script because I left it out or forgot or whatever, I can always show it in the animation.
Was unearthed. So Duncan.
So yeah, he comes at him with a knife, and then throws him down a well.
Down a well and slew.
Because Alan Cockshaw is jealous of Dunk because I think Daemon II clearly has a crush on Duncan the Tall and wants him on his King's Guard. And Alan Cockshaw was like, "No, how dare you steal him away? He's my himbo," and then like tries to attack him. But big surprise, the pudgy little guy isn't able to defeat the 6'6" giant who throws him down a well. And then he kills Sir Tom Ardheddle.
Sir Tom Ardheddle, Glendon Flowers unhorsed Daemon II, and the dragon egg that hatched was purely metaphorical. Lord Bloodraven marched on White Walls with over 5,000 men. The Brown Dragon demanded...
Yeah, the Brown Dragon, I didn't clarify that, but he's mockingly called the Brown Dragon after Glendon Flowers, the supposed son of Fireball, the Knight of the Pussy Willows. I didn't go into too much detail about Glendon Flowers, but his mother was a prostitute, and he claims that that Quentin, impregnated his mother with him because he was a regular, and so he's actually Fireball's son, but we don't really know if that's true. And he also basically sold his own sister's virginity to a random knight so that that knight could knight him, which is kind of scummy. But yeah, sorry, that was a tangent. So yes, he gets unhorsed by Glendon Flowers, and he gets covered in mud, and so people mockingly call him the Brown Dragon instead of the Red Dragon. The Black Dragon.
Single combat, but was taken prisoner. Gorman Peak was beheaded, White Walls was razed to the ground, and Daemon was taken prisoner. Gorman Peak was...
Yes, so Gorman Peak is beheaded. See, passage of time, I gave him some grey and white in his beard. Tom Ardheddle's dead body was beheaded, and Boombler was also beheaded.
White Walls was
rest in peace.
To the ground.
Oh yeah, White Walls was literally torn down, and the earth it was on was salted, so nothing could grow there. Like Bloodraven was like, "I'm going to annihilate this place, so that it can't become any kind of sacred ground, for Blackfyre supporters. That this is the place where the conspiracy took place. It's been burnt, torn down, salted. Nothing lives here. You can't do anything with it."
And Daemon was kept captive as a hostage to discourage Bittersteel and the Golden Company from invading. Lord Frey curiously went unpunished, which casts doubt on his loyalty to the plotters.
It's never confirmed, but in my headcanon it's Lord Frey absolutely ratted them out. Without question.
The conspiracy, and therefore the Second Blackfyre Rebellion, collapsed. The reign of King Aerys I saw yet another
This is a weird character design too. I don't know how this happened, but usually I have the hair go over the eyes, but the hair's a lot smaller. So look at the eyes. That should go all the way over here, right? So he looks like he has a smaller head than everyone. It's kind of odd. Anyway.
Blackfyre Rebellion. At some point, for reasons we don't yet know, Daemon II died in captivity.
See, let me know in the chat what you think about that. Daemon II is captured to prevent a rebellion, but he dies in captivity. Why did that happen? We don't know. Did he just die of illness? Did Bloodraven kill him because he hates Blackfyres? Was he executed? Did he Could it be that the Blackfyres like launched an invasion anyway, and then they were like, well, we have no choice but to kill him, you know, to prove that we're not bluffing? I don't know.
In 219 AC, the Black Dragon's fourth son was crowned King Haegon I Blackfyre.
As you can see, they're getting older. My man's got the man bun. He's dark under the eyes.
Who launched an invasion of Westeros with the Golden Company. The events of the
Daemon didn't kill himself. Yes, Daemon was found hanging in his cell. All the CCTV was turned off. Unfortunately, the guards didn't know what happened. He definitely killed himself. It's a conspiracy, I tell you. Bloodraven did it.
Blackfyre Rebellion are not well known. King Haegon, Bittersteel, and the Golden Company...
That's a cool ass shot, actually. I should sell that on a poster.
...fought on one side. Lord Bloodraven, Prince Maekar, and Maekar's sons Aegon and Aerion fought on the other. It is said that Maekar showed leadership. Prince Aegon showed cunning. Prince Aerion Brightflame took actions, and another duel broke out between Bloodraven and Bittersteel. The Blackfyres were defeated, Bittersteel was captured, and King Haegon surrendered, before being dishonourably slain. Perhaps by the morally ambiguous Bloodraven, or the maniacal Aerion Brightflame.
So yeah, could easily be Bloodraven, because we know he hates Blackfyres. Could also be Aerion, you know, he's crazy, and quite ruthless and sadistic. And it said he took actions. So could one of those actions be killing? I think that deserves a poll, don't you? Let's add another poll to the mix. So, who killed King Haegon Blackfyre? Bloodraven or Aerion Brightflame? Let me know. The poll has launched in the chat. Go to the chat to answer the question. Who killed a Haegon Blackfyre? Was it Bloodraven or Aerion Brightflame? Okay, while you're voting, let's continue the video.
After all, both of these men were adamant that the captured Bittersteel be executed too. But King Aerys refused, and sent him to the wall instead. Yet another honourable act...
Ooh, that was kind of,
while sailing him to the wall
so that was kind of low res there, that's kind of blurry. I'm not a fan of that.
instead. Yet another honourable act that had dire consequences. While sailing to Eastwatch by the Sea, Bittersteel was freed by Blackfyre.
So yeah, Eastwatch by the Sea being the easternmost fortress on the wall of the Night Watch.
Loyalists, and returned to the Golden Company in Essos. In Tyrosh, the eldest son of King Haegon was crowned King Daemon III Blackfyre. Aerys...
I'm not gonna lie. Everything involving blood, Bittersteel in these rebellions is kind of goofy. Like, he fought the Blackfyre Rebellion and he lost. He fought Bloodraven, but then he grabbed Blackfyre and he escaped into exile. And then in the third rebellion, he fought Bloodraven again, and then he was captured. But then he escaped into exile, and then he crowned a new king. And then in the fourth rebellion, he comes back, and then he escapes again. It's like it's the thing is that George is a gardener. His stories are so great because he's constantly building, and you know, when he does notes, the stories are always less interesting. Like, the Dance of the Dragons is okay. It's not the best conflict ever. Blackfyre Rebellions, again, we don't know enough about them. But there are goofy aspects to it. Like Bloodraven constantly escaping, coming back, escaping, getting caught, escaping, coming back, you know. It just makes me wonder how things like Dance of the Dragons and Blackfyre Rebellions would go if he were writing from scratch. If he were writing from scratch and making it up as he went along over time. But that's just me.
The first died without issue in 221 BC. Prince Rhaegal had choked to death on Lamprey Pie, leaving Maekar to inherit the Iron Throne as King Maekar I. At the climax of the peak uprising of 233 AC, during the storming of Starpike, King Maekar was crushed by a boulder. The succession was in dispute, and so Lord Bloodraven called a great council. Maekar had 4 sons.
Let's just appreciate the 4 sons of Maekar.
Lord Bloodraven called a great council. Maekar...
The poll is still in the chat, so feel free to vote if you haven't yet.
Had 4 sons.
There we go. We got Daeron, Aerion Brightflame, Maester Aemon, and Aegon.
Daeron the Drunken died of a pox, leaving behind a simple-minded daughter, Vaela. Aerion Brightflame drank wildfire in an insane attempt to turn into
Oh, I love that animation. I had fun with that.
dragon.
I love how he like he eats himself out a window or something.
Vaela. Aerion Brightflame
My man
drank
goes flying, look at
wildfire
him.
in an insane attempt to turn into a dragon, and left behind a baby named Maegor, who many feared would inherit his father's madness. Aemon had taken his mace's vows and refused the throne, and Aegon had grown up travelling with Sir Duncan the Tall, with some arguing he was half a peasant. The Black Dragon's fifth son, Aenys Blackfyre, rode
Anus Blackfyre. Thank you.
to King's Landing pressing his claim, hoping to sway the Great Council with words rather than swords.
See, these Blackfyres are nice. Find me one bad Blackfyre apart from Aelys. Right? Daemon the First, an honourable himbo. Daemon the Second, he's a nice guy. He's a nice gay boy. He's friendly to Dunk. He seemed honourable. He thought he was genuinely winning the tournament. Aenys, he's a nice guy. He's trusting. He's like, I don't want to fight. I want to go to the Great Council and make my case why you should elect me to be the new king. The man gets betrayed.
Surprisingly, he was offered safe conduct by Bloodraven. Unsurprisingly, Bloodraven broke his promise and had the man beheaded. He presented the pretender's head to the Great Council as a warning.
What a bitch move, genuinely. Also, yeah, I didn't comment on it earlier, but the giant boulder crushing Maekars, I had fun with that animation as well. Did timing it right. That was anyway.
Prince Aegon was elected and
Yes, lamprey is fish with the teeth. So lamprey pie was sort of a popular medieval meal. I think it's King Henry I who supposedly died of a surfeit of lamprey pie. Whether that means he choked to death on lamprey pie, or he was poisoned by lamprey pie, or he just ate so much he died, like of a heart attack or something. We don't know. Or I don't know, stomach issues. But yeah, Rhaegar choked to death. I also didn't mention, just for brevity, I didn't mention that Rhaegar had children of his own. He had a son and two daughters, and his eldest son died in a mishap, which we don't know much about, and his eldest daughter killed herself, I think, as a result of that. And his second daughter married Aerion Brightflame and had Maegor.
crowned king.
So, yeah, by the time... So Rhaegar, I think, did have a daughter married to Aerion Brightflame, but she was sort of ignored because, like, yeah.
Aegon V. One of his first acts was to send Bloodraven to the Wall for betraying his promise to Aenys Blackfyre. Bloodraven travelled up north with Maester Aemon and his Ravensguard.
Yeah, Maester Aemon and his Ravensguard. I noticed that while I was adding the subtitles after I'd scheduled the video. Ravensguard. This man thinks he's Corvus Corax. So in the subtitles I just put Raven's Teeth and I hope no one would notice.
Rising to become Lord Commander of the Night's Watch before disappearing beyond the Wall in 252 AC.
Bloodraven is an OP character, but he's so much fun. He's so cool. Like, he's a master archer, sorcerer, creepy guy, master of whisperers, hand of the king, lord commander of the Night's Watch, three-eyed crow. Like, it's just cool.
By the time of the main books, he has become the three-eyed crow, mentor to Bran Stark, sitting on a throne of roots.
To my patrons, you better believe that's going to be a wallpaper. Brynden Rivers as a tree is definitely going to be one of my wallpapers. I'll need to start working on those this week.
In 236 AC, as a cruel winter was ending, Daemon III, Bittersteel, and
His beard's got even greyer. Look at it.
Golden Company launched the Fourth Blackfyre Rebellion. They landed at Massey's Hook, near King's Landing. Daemon III hoped for Blackfyre support to snowball across the land, but in truth, few lords supported his cause.
So yeah, the third Blackfyre Rebellion, we don't know much about it. This one. It could have succeeded, because we know Westeros was in a position where they were like fed up. They were fed up of Aerys. They were fed up of Bloodraven, the Drought, the Ironborn Rage. They were, I think, the first and the third rebellions were the ones that are like seen as the ones that could have succeeded. The second couldn't have, without the Golden Company and with Bloodraven's spies, it couldn't have really succeeded. You know, but the time was right. Like, it's a good time to launch a rebellion. They just didn't have the men. In this one, they had the men, and the time was right. Oh, in the third one, at least. By the fourth one, by then, Aegon's in power, and, like, people are generally fine with him in power. There's no desire for the Blackfyres to come back. People just don't care. It's sort of it's a bit of a Hail Mary.
King Aegon V and his 3 sons rode out to meet the rebels in the field. At the Battle of the Wendwater Bridge, the Blackfyre host was annihilated. King Daemon III was slain by Lord Commander Duncan the Tall.
There we go, we got Duncan without his helmet now. Look at this boy. Yeah, we know nothing about this except they landed near Massey's Hook and they were defeated here. I assume, as with the third Blackfyre rebellion, this rebellion will also be in a Duncan Egg story, and I'm very excited to see it. Duncan the Kingslayer.
And Bittersteel once more fled to Essos. It was a resounding Targaryen victory, except for the notable death of Sir Tion Lannister, whose demise set the stage for the Rain Revolt.
Shameless plug. Shameless plug. If you haven't seen the Rain Revolt video... that's not what I want. Oh well. If you haven't seen the Rain Revolt video, check it out. It's pretty good. My favourite bit is when I have all the Rains dancing in the spot. That was a fun moment. But yes, Tion Lannister dies, which means... So Tion Lannister's older brother, can't remember his name, died during the Peak Uprising. Tion himself died. Here, both died without children. They moved, then Tytos Lannister took over. He's the son of Tywin. And Ellen Rain was married to Tion Lannister, who died, and she wanted to marry him, but he was already married, and so let's just say Lannister-Rain tensions grew and grew until the Rains rebelled against the Lannisters. But like I said, check it out in that video. That was a good video, I like that one.
This proved to be Bittersteel's final rebellion.
Oh, let me end the poll, actually. 77 votes are in. Who killed King Aegon Blackfyre? Brilliant. 69% of people say Bloodraven. 31% say Aerion Brightflame. We're ending the poll. Most people think Bloodraven killed Aegon dishonourably in battle. Interesting. Did I say son of Tywin? I meant father of Tywin. He's the Tytos is the father of Tywin.
A few years later, he was This proved to be Bittersteel's final rebellion. A few years later, he was mortally wounded during a battle in the disputed lands.
Can we have F's in the chat, please? This is the death of Bittersteel. He didn't even die in a rebellion, which I also quite like. I like that he isn't killed in a rebellion, that he keeps trying, but he ends up dying in some random sellsword battle. With defiance upon his lips, supposedly.
But before dying, he ordered the Golden Company to dip his skull in gold and carry it with them everywhere. Thus arose the company's war cry, beneath the gold, the bitter steel.
See, I was saying Bloodraven was badass. Bittersteel's also badass. They're cool characters. They're such cool characters. Beneath the gold, the bitter steel. Yeah, there we go. The F's are pouring in. F's in the chat, everyone. Well, yeah, he didn't just say carry it with them. He also said, bring the golden skull to Westeros when you reclaim it for the Blackfyres. So, yeah.
In a sense, Aegor Rivers has become just as immortal as his brother Brynden.
See, I don't know if that I assume that take's been done before, but that was sort of my own interpretation. I threw that in. It's probably been said before. But yeah, they are both immortal in their own way. Bittersteel as a golden skull. The famous founder of the Golden Company versus Bloodraven, who's quite literally sort of semi-immortal.
The fifth and final Blackfyre rebellion took place in 260 AC.
And here we have Maelys the Monstrous. I did a poll. Yeah, I did a community poll about which Blackfyre rebellion was people's favourites. And someone in the comments was like, my Maelys the Monstrous character should be merchandise. I appreciate it, but I'm not allowed to sell a Song of Ice and Fire characters as merchandise because that's not legal. But I'm genuinely planning on launching merchandise next month. It's going to be, I'm going to do it in my style. There'll be some Haven merch, Haven characters. I'll probably do like vague generic stuff like King, Dragon, Queen, Prince, Knight, but I can't do specific characters because that's illegal. And George and HBO like to sue people, so, I gotta be smart.
During the reign of Jaehaerys II, a few years prior, across the Narrow Sea, an assortment
The American skull shape creates the urge to sue everyone.
Of merchants, mercenaries.
Alright, let me go back a bit.
Blackfyre rebellion.
So yeah, Maelys the Monstrous, the last of the male line. I didn't clarify this, so I added it in the art. He had a head growing out of his neck. presumably the idea is that they were going to be twins, but then sometimes, one fetus will sort of absorb the other, and sort of it has a certain name, I can't remember, but he's called the Monstrous, partly based on his looks, but also presumably his character, because if he tore off his cousin's head, he's probably, of all the Blackfyres, who are these like noble, honourable men, Meleys was probably an actual scumbag. Like, he was an actual villain, someone for the noble Barristan to cut down. Maybe that's wrong, though. Maybe we're going to learn who's actually more complex.
Took place in 260 AC, during the reign of Jaehaerys II.
Here we are. The 5th Blackfyre Rebellion, also known as the War of the Ninepenny Kings, also known as the Vietnam of Westeros.
A few years prior, across the Narrow Sea, an assortment of merchants, mercenaries and pirates known as the Band of Nine had teamed up to carve out kingdoms for themselves. The Old Mother was a pirate queen, Samaro-san, the last Valyrian, was a notorious Lyseni pirate, Jobar Quoquer, the Ebon Prince, was an exiled Summer Islander.
This man has so much drip. I love how Summer Islander fashion is just like bright feathers. It's like, yeah, I can fuck with that.
And founder of a sellsword company, Lyamon Lashare, the Lord of Battles, was an infamous sellsword captain, as was Spotted Tom the Butcher. Sir Derek Fossaway the Bad Apple was an exiled knight with a black reputation.
It's not clarified what branch of Fossaway the Bad Apple came from. Could be red, could be green. I went with green because I kind of like the idea of him coming from a cadet branch. Like, he's not from the main branch, he's from a cadet branch. He's like, I don't know. But it could be either way, I don't know.
Nine Eyes was the captain of the Jolly Fellows. Alequo Adaris, the Silver Tongue, was a Tyroshi merchant.
We don't know what the Jolly Fellows are, actually. This is just Fat Euron, I just realised. But yeah, we don't know what the Jolly Fellows are, but I think captain of the Jolly Fellows, to me, that sounds like pirate captain. So I put him on a boat. Yeah. Why is he called the Bad Apple? He's called the Bad Apple because the sigil of House Fossaway is a red apple, and then there's a cadet branch of House Fosso, which is a green apple. So if he has a bad reputation, if he's an exiled knight, probably some kind of criminal, he's like the Bad Apple.
Eyes was the captain of the Jolly Fellows. Alequo Adaris, the Silver Tongue, was a Tyroshi merchant prince. And King Meleys the Monstrous was the captain general. I
believe in the original, drafts of A Dance for Dragons, the Cushing Library leaks, where it went into more detail about the Band of Nine. The Silver Tongue was originally called Golden Tongue, I think. And there were a few other changes, but I don't remember them all. Quinn the GM has a good video about those Cushing Library leaks, the early editions of Dance for Dragons.
Of the Golden Company, and the last male Blackfyre after murdering his cousin Daemon.
Well, rest in peace. Yeah, he literally tore off his cousin's head, who was the Captain General of the Golden Company. He was like, well, I want to be Captain General, so rest in peace your head. Tore his head off.
Rule of the Golden Company. And
fun fact, this is also a Patreon cameo, which you wouldn't expect. One of my patrons wanted a character drawn that was their Crusader Kings 3 OC called Lord Laenor Blackfyre, so I drew that for him. And then I was like, hey, your Haven character is the Blackfyre. I'm doing Blackfyre Rebellion. I know what your cameo can be. You can be the dude whose head gets torn off.
Last male Blackfyre after murdering his cousin Daemon. The War of the Ninepenny Kings began when the Band of Nine conquered the disputed lands and set up the Silver Tongue as the tyrant of Tyrosh. They then conquered the Stepstones, and Meleys prepared to take the Iron Throne. In 260 AC, Jaehaerys II sent an army to the Stepstones commanded by his hand. Lord Tytos Lannister sent 10,000 men-at-arms led by his brother Sir Jason, while Lord Quellen Greyjoy sent a fleet of 100 longships. The war in the Stepstones lasted for almost a year. Lord Ormond Baratheon was slain.
See, does anyone think this would make a good TV show? The first Blackfyre Rebellion, if we have more information, yeah, that could be a good TV show. The second Blackfyre Rebellion, that would be part of the Dunk and Egg adaptation, so that's fun. 3 and 4, again, we don't know enough about them to decide. Could Ninepenny Kings? I feel like it would be too, member berries, It would be too much and here's young Tywin, and here is Bobby B's father, and here is his Littlefinger's father, here's young Barristan. It would be kind of I don't know. Maybe they could make it work. I like the vibe of it. I like this sort of island hopping war, you know, and it goes beyond the Stepstones. It's like the disputed lands, Tyrosh. It's all of these mercenary captains, pirates, princes, all these like all of these villains basically teaming up and being like, let's carve out land for ourselves. It's really cool. The idea of it is really cool. Oh yes, thank you, Bittersteel. I did mention that. Not only did he tear his cousin's head off, he once killed a horse with a single punch. Yeah. He's the mountain of his day.
Replaced by Lord Commander Gerald Hightower of the Kingsguard, just as Sir Jason Lannister was slain and replaced by Lord Roger Rayne. Prince Aerys Targaryen made friends with Tywin Lannister, who was fighting with his brothers Kevan and Tyget. Lord Hostertully fought with his brother Brynden and became friends with the minor Lord Baelish.
So yeah, he's got the Baelish sigil, which is the Titan head on green with the flaming eyes. Very over the top, overcompensating sigil for a family descended from a Braavosi sellsword, and of course Littlefinger thinks so too. So he has the Mockingbird be his sigil, which is much more apt. I also made Littlefinger's father is very much modelled off of Littlefinger's character design, but I gave him slightly more tan skin to represent that he's he's closer to the original Braavosi sellsword who came over.
Eventually agreeing to take his son.
See, look, Littlefinger has slightly lighter skin tone.
To Baelish as a ward. Similarly, Jon Arryn befriended Steffan.
Yeah, it's the Expendables. War of the Ninepenny Kings is just like the Avengers. It would just be like Game of Thrones prequel mixed with the Avengers. But like, yeah.
Baratheon and Rickard.
Oh, another cameo.
His son Peter Baelish as a ward. Similarly,
this was This was a last minute cameo because like as I was wrapping up the video, Coleshot became a Lord of Light patron. I was like, oh shit, I need to quickly put you in as a cameo. So he's chilling in the back. There he is with his. This is also a character he made in CK3, which is cool. Oh yeah, and as you may notice, young Jon Arryn is also modelled after my Harold Harding character because they're described as looking the same.
Baratheon and Rickard Stark, agreeing to take their respective sons Robert and Ned as wards in the Eyrie. But it was the young Tony Knight Sir Barristan Selmy who slew Meleys the Monstrous in single combat, extinguishing the House of Blackfyre and heralding the end of the Blackfyre rebellion. Or did?
I did. YouTube has this new thing where if you like hold down on the right, it fast forwards and like goes like not fast. Yeah, it's sort of increases the speed temporarily. It's very annoying. That's not what I wanted to do. But yeah, Barry B killed Meleys the Monstrous. Now in my first draft of this, after this bit, I go, or did he? And then I go into young Griff. But then, for those who are here early in the stream, you would know that I changed that around because I wanted the young Griff video to be a whole video dedicated to that. You know, that seemed fair. So we're nearing the end. I'm going to look at the final bit here. But we might wrap up in like 5 to 10 minutes. Excuse me, sorry. We might wrap up in 5 to 10 minutes. So this is the last call for super chats. If you have any questions you want me to answer, you have any theories or ideas you want me to discuss, or you just want me to say something dumb out loud in public and ruin my career, go ahead. But yeah, let's do the final bit, the teaser for the next video.
As we'll explore in my next video, perhaps there's some life left in this rebellious dynasty. Red or black, dragons are not so easy to kill.
And that's a teaser for the next video, discussing young Griff. We've got Varys, Illyrio, I love this design, and young Griff himself.
To learn about another Westerosi great house, check out the animated history of House Tyrell. Special thanks.
Here's some behind the scenes stuff too, by the way. So, yeah, the end cards, they're up for like 20 seconds, and I completely mistimed it. So usually what happens is it switches.
Red or black.
Yeah, it switches to this, and then all the end cards. But I timed it completely wrong. So like, there's a whole several seconds of just nothing.
House Tyrell. Special.
And then that, and you may think, who gives a shit? That doesn't mean anything. It is a bit of an issue because the moment you end the video. This is like if anyone wants to be a YouTuber. Here's some advice. The moment you end the video, like most viewers just click off. Right, the attention span is like boom, they're gone. So that's why I never wrap up like thank you for watching the video. This is the end, blah, blah, blah. Like, I immediately transition from, if you like this, check out this one. And it quickly switches here. Then I do my thanks for watching, blah, blah, blah. If you let the viewer know that you're wrapping up a video, they will just leave. So you need to give them a satisfying ending, but transition into the end card straight away. So just be like, I teased young Griff, then I went, and if you want a Tyrell one, check out this one, then boom, end card. Yeah. I'll let the patron names play out, actually.
Thanks to my patrons, Andre, Boombler, Lala Loopsy, Lord Devon Cole, Coleshot, and Lauren. You may have spotted some of their character cameos in this video. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed.
Yeah, this video is doing very well, and I'm very happy, and I'm very thankful to all of you lot for watching. You know, I really wanted this video to do well, and this video is currently the second most popular as of, you know, the amount of time it's been out for. The number one is still Bolton. The Bolton bros remain winning, and I don't know why, but my Bolton video was way more. It is still in the lead. Let me see. So as of the first 3 days of release, my Bolton video had 24k views. My Blackfyre Rebellions has 21k views. So yeah. Hopefully the Blackfyre one keeps. Let's overtake the Boltons. That'll be a fun one. But yes, next video I will be discussing. Let's go back. Not that far back. I'll be discussing. There we go. Young Griff. And we got Varys and Illyrio. John Con. Someone tell Quinn the GM. John Con. We'll be discussing the potential 6th Blackfyre Rebellion. And then once we've looked at that, the whole conspiracy with Aegon Blackfyre, Sarah Blackfyre, maybe Varys Blackfyre, etc. We're going to move on to A Song of Ice and Fire, What If? My first in the What If series. See if it's popular, see if people like it. It'll be what if the Blackfyre Rebellion succeeded, when I'll just go through every single rebellion and be like, how could it have succeeded, and if it did, how does that affect the future of Westeros in some way? You know, I think it'll be a really fun one, but we'll have to see. So, yeah. Thank you for watching, I guess. I need to have some dinner. I've ended very late. I should have ended 20 minutes ago. I've got to make some chili. Thanks for watching. Like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Watch my other videos and like those and so on if you want to support the channel in that way. I appreciate all of you. Love you all. If you want to support the channel financially, then check out my Patreon in the description. All kind of great tiers. You can, like I said, higher tiers. You can have art drawn for you, wallpapers, cameo in videos, name in the description and the end card, and I say out loud. Or if you want to do something on the lower end of the tiers, you still get cool stuff like exclusive content, like the history of House Dane, the animated history of House Dane, the Hightower video extended, behind the scenes video, stuff like that. And even at the tiniest tier, the one that I think is like $3, $2, you have access to updates and the Discord, the Patreon Discord, where we banter and chat and post memes and face reveals and stuff, which I've done a few times. The patrons were subjected to my Perry the Platypus Halloween costume 2 days ago, unfortunately for them. But again, if you can't afford it, that's fine. You can support the channel in other ways, which you all know. So thank you for watching. And next month, I promise you, merchandise. You've all been asking for merchandise. I'm going to give you merchandise. Haven mugs, t-shirts, Fantasy Haven body pillow, even. Because I know some of you creeps want the Fantasy Haven body pillow, so it's coming. Yeah, jokes aside, thank you so much. I'll see you in the next live stream. This is going to be a week of live streams, so the next one is probably going to be like maybe tomorrow. So yeah, live stream week. See ya.